Hello. Hello. Happy Monday. Hello. Can you guys see me and hear me? Okay, this is a test. We're testing here because I was having computer issues. It's not me. I swear it's StreamYard. I don't know what is going on. Hi. Can you guys see me and hear me? Okay. Is there a lag? Let me know. Let me know. Are we good? Hi. What? Okay. Muy bueno? Okay. Hello. Hello. Hi. Welcome back. It's good. Okay. Yay. Okay, good. I was so worried. I don't know, I'm asking for a refund on StreamYard. Yeah, I am because they be ripping us off. They be ripping us off. It was showing it was having issues on my end earlier, so I was like, great. I won't be able to do a live tonight, but here I am. I just couldn't stay away. Hi, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I am Melly. This is my channel. This is my house. I am your host. Hello, welcome. We're back at it. Mackenzie text. I'm going to cover Mackenzie tonight. I might do an after dark and do like a true crime update. If not, I'll be doing that tomorrow night. So definitely please make sure you turn on your notifications, hit the like button, do all the YouTube things, please. It really helps the smaller channels that are just getting out there. So thank you. I appreciate you for being here. If I end up having to get up and turn my AC on, I don't have it on right now because I don't want you guys to be able to hear it in the background. But at the end of the day, if you guys hear it, it's like, oh, well, baby, suck it up, suck it up. It'll be fine. It's just an AC because it's hot. It's still hot here. I'm in California. So baby, I'm burning up. Okay, anyways, let's get started. We were on page, I don't know, but I'm on the same page where we ended. Oh, they were fighting. They were fighting about, I think, a birthday party. So I'm going to pull up the text messages. Hello, shout out to all my mods. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone who checked in. I saw Jamie, Kara, welcome, Kara, Wim, Hot Issue, Midnight, Cree, Abuelitas. Oh no, girl, turn that AC on. No, baby, no AC. I'm up here sweating, speeding for you guys. I'm just doing it all. No, it's hot. Just tell us not to touch. Yeah, if you guys touch my freaking vents, I swear we're going to have issues. Turn on your AC first. Abuelita's like, turn it on so you don't interrupt. Do you guys want? No, I just feel bad. I think we can survive. If you guys start seeing me getting sweaty, be like, hello? Turn on the AC. Okay, fine. Turning it on. Hold 1 second. I know you guys want me to turn it on so I don't have to leave earlier. That's what it is. We have a sale. Okay, let's get started. Turn on the air conditioner. You might pass out. No, I might, really. It's cold here in the mountains. Bring me to the mountains. Hello, and hello to Prison Guard. Handsome Hector in the house. Hi, love. Thanks for being here. Shout out to Hector. Always check out other channels when they come in here. Check them out. If they're here, it's because I love them. Okay, we need a presentation board of all the players. Oh, I thought that was a command, sorry. Of the players of the Mackenzie case. There's too many. We don't cheat. Who cheated on me? Don't get me started. Who was cheating on me this week? We almost had problems. No problems. Oh, my favorite. My favorite giving me a super chat. Hector. Thank you, Hector. I appreciate you. That's Lieutenant Hector for you guys. For you guys in the chat. Shout out to Prison Guard. Like I said, go check him out. I thought I linked his channel, but apparently I didn't. But I will. So go check him out. We're always hanging out over there. Thank you, Hector. I love and appreciate you. Supportive friends. We love that. Oh my God, y'all are cheating. I just got here. We're just getting started, baby. We're just getting started. Nobody's cheating on anyone. We are loyal here, loyal to the bone. You guys better be. Let me find out if someone's talking shit and you guys are cheating. Let me find out. Okay, I just linked that prison guard. Go follow, please, please, please. And when you're there, be like, Melly sent me. Hello, hello. Okay, ready? Let's get started. We were on, I think they were fighting about something. Let's see. If I can just get my shit together. I rushed home, you guys. I was rushing. Speeding. I was speeding, hitting all the bumps, just doing it all. I was breaking all the laws to get here to my babies, to you guys. Okay, let's get started. Really so cute. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay, this was August 15th, 11:52 p.m. I'm going a couple pages back. She says, come back right now or we're about to have issues. She says, like you say sorry and then you do the exact same shit. So childish, she says. And Dom says, what do you mean? He says, chill. Mackenzie says, like you told me to come over. I am at your house. Oh my God, this is you guys tonight. You're at my house waiting for me. While I'm driving home so I can be here. She says, I am at your house. And he says, I said you could. And she says, come right now. And he says, because your power is out. That's where we were at. Remember, her power was out and she just thought she could walk on over to Dom's house. And he wasn't even home, which we're used to here, right? He's never home. She's always waiting. Anyways, he says, I told you could because your power is out. And she's like, no, you come right now. He's like, why? She says, Dom, if you don't come, we're going to have issues. I'm not even lying. And he says, why? And she says, okay, I'm done. If you don't come back right now, it will prove that you're not sorry and you don't care. Never tell me you love me if you're going to treat me like this. And Dom says, what? Question mark, question mark, question mark. She says, you don't care that I'm upset. And he says, why? Question mark times 4. She says, all you care is about them and your gay ass blunt. Like, I've been here upset, she says. I'm laughing because we know she cares about the blunt. She's always be talking about it before. I'm just saying. And he says, Kenzie, I'm with you every night. Sorry, my plans changed. She says, you told me soon several times. And he says, you've only been upset because I haven't been home. And she says, and that was an effing lie. What happened to, quote unquote, I'll eat, then I'll come back? You just ignored me, she says. How the F do you expect me to feel? And Dom says, well, I was eating for a while, LOL. They sang happy birthday and had cake. And she says, like, read what you said. And he says, I don't have good reception. She says, before you started ignoring, you told me earlier in the day that we can hang later too, which I guess wasn't true too. And he says, plans changed. And she says, since when did you lie? And the fact that you can't even get the F up and come to your house is so childish and fake. Like, I'm so effing nice to you, she says. I do anything for you. And you do this shit? You got me effed up, she said. You got me effed up, she said. You got me effed up, she said. Like, I told you I'm upset and you still won't come. All you care about is your friends, she says. He's like, well, I don't see why you're upset. And she's like, if you cared, you would be here. And he says, I've only been nice. She says, and you're not. And he says, okay, you're tripping. And she says, and you're still not on the way. If you don't leave, I'll come to Kyle's. He says, I put you before my friends all the time. She says, no, the F you don't. He says, yes, I do. She says, stop lying. He says, I'm not. What do you mean? She says, I'm going to flip the F out typing in caps. You know when you're typing in caps and you're so mad? Like, I so have been there before. So I know what it's like. Yeah, I do. She about to be mad. Who's about to be mad? Hi. Hello, Emily. Hello, Mayla's mom. I was going to say Mayla's mom. Sarah G. Hello, the uploader. Hello, hello. Yeah, don't be texting me like this, guys. No one be texting me like this. You better text me with some sexy ass nice words because we're having a problem. Okay, let's continue. She says, see, you can't even come back. You don't care. And he says, okay, I'll come back soon, but you can't be doing this. She says, I can't believe this. Stop acting dumb. He says, what do you mean? I really didn't do anything. I told you I'd be home at 9, and then I said plans changed. And she says, don't act like you didn't just lie to me, then ignore me for 4+ hours and be shady AF, and your friends won't tell you that I told them to tell you to call me. You never said plans changed until after you ignored me. Like, you effed up. I'm over it, she says. If you don't come back right now, I'm leaving and we're gonna have issues. And Dom says, Kenzie, come on. I swear to God, Dom, I'm not letting you treat me like this, she said. I do so much for you. And he says, Kenzie, I do hella for you. She says, like, leave. Why is that so hard? She says, I will for real come there. And he says, I was just trying to have a good time for a little. And she says, I don't care. He says, why you got to do that to me? And she's like, you ruined my whole night. You lied. He says, how? I didn't lie. She says, you effed me over. Stop telling yourself that, she said. Dom says, how did I lie? And she says, holy shit. And he says, how? And she says, you're about to make me go crazy. Effing leave right now. And he says, how did I lie? She says, I'm for real just going to leave. And he says, explain to me what I did. He says, because I didn't think I lied. I don't remember lying. She says, leave right now. And he says, why? She says, she questions, quote unquote, I'm on my way home. She emphasizes. You guys know, right? When I told you this, when I say question or emphasizes, you know how on the Apple, what am I even saying? Like on Apple phones, you double tap. Yeah, you double tap that ass. No, you double tap that and then you know what it does. So why am I explaining that to you guys? You probably know that. But for those of you who are questioning me, she says she questions all of his message, sends a screenshot, and then she says, and you're a dumbass. Why the F you keep saying that? Like, you know why. You said sorry so many times and you're still being disrespectful. It's funny how your friends just let you do this. He says, I'm not trying to. She says, F them all. Dom, he's ignoring her. If you don't leave right now, like I said, we're about to have issues. Maddie can come get me right now. He says, okay, I'll eat, then leave. She says, you said that before. He says, I want some pizza real quick. She says, your mom made effing food. Oh yeah, we did read this last night. She says, I don't give an F. No. And he says, what did she make? She says, right now, Dom, if you don't come, you don't care. I will literally be so mad at you. I'm doing what you said. I've only been here like 20 minutes. That's what Dom said. He said, I've only been here like 20 minutes. And she says, I don't care. And she says, you told me you were on the way home, not on the way to Kyle's. Dom, come right now. If you don't come, you don't care about me and I'm leaving. And he says, okay, I'll come. Give me a sec to eat this pizza. She says, no, I don't give an F about the pizza, like at all. You better come right now. Like, get in your car and come right now. Oh my God, you care more about the pizza than me, she says. And he says, I'm hungry, G. And he's already getting it. And she says, don't call me G. What the F? Ever, she says. And I don't care. Leave or I'm leaving. You care more about pizza than your girlfriend? So effing childish. Answer. What the F? Like, I know you're on your phone. She says, you're being so fake, Dom. He said, I wasn't, but okay. She says, I'm for real about to be so mad. He was like, I'm actually getting ready to leave. She says, oh yeah, I bet you are. Dom, I swear to God, if you're not in the car, I'm dipping. He says, yeah, LOL, but I'm still deciding because of this pizza, LOL. She says, I'm not putting up with this shit ever again. And he says, okay, you can dip then. I don't care. And he said, Mackenzie says, I thought you were done acting like you were 10 years old. Oh, you don't care? Finally, you say it. And he says, well, I care, but you can leave if you want to. If you cared, you would be here, she says. You would be here for me. And Dom says, that wouldn't affect me at all. She says, you wouldn't have done this to me. You're such a DICK. F you, she says. And Dom says, what do I have to be there for you for? What's going on? And she says, F you. And he says, that's so crazy. She says, you're fake AF. And he says, like, I thought It's just a normal night, he said. And Mackenzie says, you're such a child, Dom. You made it like this. You started everything. Come back right now. Get in the car right now, she says. And he's like, WTF, what is your problem, you crazy psycho? Well, he didn't say that, but I'm thinking it. And so she's like, I will for real PU. What does that mean? I don't know. And he says, I'm mad at you. Wait. Oh, yeah. And then he's like, I'm mad at you. And she's like, I'll just come there. Oh, you're mad now, she says. You always got to make it about you. After you're the one who did me dirty. If you don't come here, we're having issues, she said. Like, I'm not even playing. And he says, you're being childish AF. And she says, no, Dom, you are. And he says, you're the one acting 10. And she says, oh, really? So you're not the one who lied 5+ times in the span of 4 hours? And he says, I didn't lie. And she says, like, why do you care about them more than me? Yes, you did. Like, how do you just do this to me? Like, you told me you loved me today, Dom. WTF. I tell you I'm upset and you still don't come. And he's like, I didn't. She said, this is literally so effed up. I don't deserve this at all. And he says, I tell you that every day. I'm on the way back. She says, like, this shit isn't fair to me. I sit here waiting for you, thinking you're coming, and you're just ignoring me. And I just sit here and think, and you just ignoring me. And he says, it's really not fair to me. She says, like, it feels like you don't care. And Dom says, swarming my life, you don't tell me what to do. And she says, if you cared, you would have came right when I said I was upset, or when you said soon the first time. The only reason I flipped because you ignored and lied to me. It isn't fair, and you know that upsets me, and then you do it anyways. Like, you knew I was at your house. Like, I don't know if you actually on the way back, or are you still there? How far are you even? Question mark, exclamation, times 5. And then she's like, good night, babe. So they must have hung out. That was at 12:20. And then she says, good night, babe, at 3:18. He says, good morning, baby, the next morning. So they must have hung out. And she says, morning. I'm exhausted. She texts him way too much. This is crazy. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Hi, Jenny. Yeah, who's going to buy me pizza? Hector just bought me pizza. Now she's just all happy again. Well, for now. Okay, she says, how did you sleep? And he says, pretty good. She says, you want to hang soon? Question mark, question mark. I don't know why you just stopped talking, but it's whatever, she says. This is August 16th, by the way. She emphasizes it. She says, you don't have to be so mean. And he sends a picture of, I think it looks like a bruise. He says, get the things you want, and when you give her the money, say, and 35 on pump 3, premium. I think we read these last night, right? It sounds familiar. And then she says, morning, baby, the next day. So they hung out. They were getting gas. And he says, good morning, babe. She says, I want to get up, but Cam is sleeping right with me. He says, yeah, I'm just chilling too. I got court today. She says, I don't know why I keep forgetting about that. And he says, what time? She says, we're leaving at 12:15. She says, do you want to hang before you go? He says, yes. You want to put money on your card and get those shoes? She says, yes, I'm down. Want me to come over right now? And he says, yeah, I'm on the toilet. And she says, okay, LOL, I'll be over soon, babe. He says, okay. And he says, I have to leave soon. And she says, I'm on the way right now. And he says, take all the singles and put them in your bank. And she says, shit, I already dipped. I'll do it in a little. And he says, bet, do it when you can. She says, I will, babe, and good luck for real. If you're bored on the ride, send me game pigeon. He says, okay. She says, want me to get dropped off at your house? She says, babe. He says, yeah. She says, I'm there. He says, okay. And that was on 8/17. The next morning, she says, good morning, babe. She says, want to get cannolis today? She says, are you good? And he said, yeah, I was sleeping. She says, oh, damn. Olive Garden calamari? And she says, tell me that doesn't sound so good right now. She says, and he says, it does, but I haven't ate breakfast. What other edibles should I make? She said, brownies. I know we read this last night. She said, you can make hella different kinds. He said, get me 4 boxes of golden grams and 10 bags of marshmallows. That's the last page that I thought we had left off on. She says, how much chocolate? He says, I don't know. Just get a bunch of bags of Baker's chocolate. She says, get a couple of marshmallow puff. She says, you got to pay me back though. And he says, get a couple of boxes of brownies. He says, I know. And she says, okay, damn, hella shit. He says, get some unsalted butter, like 8 sticks, and let me check how much oil I have. She said, okay, LMFAO, probably just get a little thing of vegetable oil too, he said. And she said, okay. She says, I really hope I don't have to use my 100 bill. He said, stop and grab some 20s. He said, get some extra golden grams too. She says, we're already at Drug Mart pretty much. And he says, I don't know if you'll find everything there. She said, I'm going to try. And then he says, what are you doing? And she says, what oil? ASAP. And she says, okay, I'm getting vegetable oil. And he says, cool. She says, what is it called? A cloth. And he said, a cheesecloth. And she said, okay. And he says, it's like a net thing. She says, okay, Giant Eagle will have it. She says, we're going to go there for the chocolate. Did AJ get my speaker? And Dom says, yeah, let me call him. She says, okay, let me know. She questions his message, and then he says, I don't know, we'll have to look. She says, I'm at Giant Eagle right now. And he says, for sure. She says, we'll be over soon. He says, word, I'm waiting for the decarb, then I got to shower real quick. She says, okay, would chocolate chips be okay? She says, we're coming. And he says, bet. She says, or we can wait. And he says, I'm about to shower real quick. She says, okay, never mind, yay. Well, I can just kick it and I can hit the bong, babe. He says, yeah, I want to roll a wood. And she said, oh, bet. She says, I have a surprise for you. We're here right now, by the way. And he says, not graham crackers, golden crackers. She says, okay, I'll find them. And he sends a screenshot of them. And then she says, okay. They only have one box at Drug Mart. Now we have to go to another grocery store. He says, did Blake hit you or Maddie up for the speaker? And she says, Maddie texted about, and Blake gave it to us. He says, okay, I was about to fight everyone. She says, well, why? What did you think? And he says, I don't know, because AJ said that Blake said he was giving it to you and Maddie. And if y'all didn't have it, I just have to fight Blake and then bitch slap AJ for getting played like ABITCH. She says, yeah, I'm for real happy I just got it. I thought I was going to lose it. She says, or would have got it back. She says, babe, are you sparking the wood? He says, yeah, it's really fat. And she says, bet. He says, I've been doing the oil right now. And she says, we're getting the cereal. He says, what are you doing right now? And she says, meeting with Michael right now. He says, I want some food. Are you hungry? She says, yeah, I'm hungry AF. She says, what should we get? I've been craving calamari. And he says, where could we get it? We could get bukas. And he says, or a Japanese place. And she says, oh, let me know. She says, I could do both, to be honest, like Shinto or buka, hard choice. They both smack. She said, flip coin. He says, like, buka only like big ass meals though, right? Didn't we read this already? I was thinking that. Are they? Okay, what part did we leave on last night? I'm like, is it just me or wasn't it her birthday party? Because if so, then I remember where we left off. My bad. Oh, no. Wait, wasn't it her birthday last night? Yeah, I think I remember where we are. I'm sorry, that's the last time I wrote it down. Clearly, I didn't write it down when we ended the live last. Oh, that's right. It was the night before last because I was having tech issues. Great. I kind of remember where we were at. I'm fast forwarding it. Don't trip. It was her birthday party, wasn't it? Or did we already skip that part? We saw the cuddling part. She was like, come over and cuddle or something like that, right? Yeah, she was saying she was just too high. He's like, so you're fried? I'm fast forwarding. Sorry, you guys have to wait till I get there. I'm like, wait, this sounds familiar to me as I was reading them. And I can't see, I have to switch screens. So I didn't see what you guys were saying. Oh, yeah. She said, hey, if you're going to yell at me, I'm going to leave again. Is that where we left off? When she was like, we have beef. She says, you're going to be disrespectful. He says, I'm smoking with Thomas. She says, want to hang with when you're back, you're such a DICK. Like you're really acting different today. I know we read that part. She says, and I have a lot better things to do, so be happy. I want to chill with you. I feel like you have just been rude today, she said. She says, morning, babe. Okay, wait, I don't remember this. Oh, yeah, I do remember this. She was going to remember the vape pen to Gavin? Okay, I think we're here. So you really just want to be with Thomas all day, she says, and I'm going to say no to you coming to Husni's, but it's whatever. He says, no, I'm about to leave soon. I'm just trying to chill with my homie before I don't see him for months. We did read that part because he was going away to college. And she was like, he's only going to be 20 minutes away. She says, it's annoying AF. He's like, it's 2 hours, babe. Do you know how to tell time? He says, I haven't seen Trev in a month. I don't remember what page we left off on, sadly, until I fast forward. Okay. He says, and it's just going to be Thomas and Husni, and I don't see why one night is a big deal. Okay, wait. This is where he calls her a bitch. Oh, yeah. He was like, I don't want you to come with me with my friends when it's like a bunch of dudes. Okay, I'm going to start there. I think we are, yeah. Okay, wait. I think I remember this bitch part because I thought it was intense. Okay, she says, he says it's just going to be Thomas and Husni and all of them. I don't see why one night is a big deal. He says, like, stop being a bitch. And she says, didn't this conversation end like an hour ago? And he says, I don't know. He says, I have so many messages. I kind of remember this part. He says, let me hang with Trevor. She says, see, Thomas, my straight brother, he appreciates me more than I even knew. Mackenzie says, he's a good friend. Want to go out to eat tonight? Dom says, we could still, I still have to go to Trevor's. Just hit me up. Oh, yeah, we did read this because the crab legs, remember? She wanted crab legs. She says, hit me up when you leave Trevor's. I honestly can't remember what we left off on the other night. She DoorDashed the crab legs. He says, okay, how long? He says, we're still at Trevor's smoking. She says, wait, how long? And he says, I'm dipping soon. This is on 8:20. She said, scoop. And he says, okay. She says, let me know when you're on the way. And he says, okay. She says, question mark, question mark. Good morning. Oh, about to go to the dentist. And he says, what dentist? We did read this. She says, a new one. I don't know where at. I do remember the new dentist part. Dang, we were far. I must have gone back to the night before last. Right? Because I don't remember writing it down last time. I remember the dentist part. I can't remember if her birthday already passed. Because I know we read all of that. He says, I'm going to go smoke this half blunt with Sheen and then we can chill. She says, yay, okay. This is on 8:21. He says, hour or so. She says, I thought you blocked me. Why did Farron just text me? She treated the F out of me. I can't trust Maddie at all. I wasn't even talking about Piss Town Hannah. She says, like, WTF, why you just leave me on red? She says, bruh, fuck all of y'all. She says, everyone's fake. It's been like 2 hours. When is he leaving? You can come in like 5. And he says, what's up? She says, come get me. Pick me up in the cul-de-sac by my house. She says, babe. He says, okay. He says, I'm talking to someone. That's why I ended the call. It's rude to answer the phone when you're talking to someone. She said, well, you said you would get me after you did your sales, and I don't think you did that. She says, like, I'm ready for you to come get me now. Just pick me up at my house. Do you want me to just get a ride? And he says, I don't know, babe. My phone died. So many messages, all messed up. He sends a screenshot, and she says, question mark? She says, should I just leave? Like, all you want to do is play basketball. I wonder when you're going to start giving me attention again. She says, like, acting how you are right now just makes me in a worse mood. I don't know why you never learn, she said. Where are you? Why are you out there again? And he says, I grabbed the cans, now I'm just chilling outside. She says, well, can you come in? And he says, yeah. She says, love you, babe, at 2:32 in the morning. And he says, good morning, baby, the next day on 8:22. She says, how'd you sleep? She said, want to do fun shit today? He says, I don't know. I might have a lot of stuff to do. She said, can I come with? If not, it's okay, babe. He says, you can't come over right now, but we could probably chill today. And she said, that's fine. He said, for sure. She said, the temperature today is 86. Let's swim. He said, maybe. She said, we should. Summer's about to be over. I really want to swim. He said, okay, fine, where we probably can. I feel like we read that part too. She says, how far are you willing to go? And he says, depends. Honestly, I don't care where we go as long as it's fun, he said. And she said, bet. He said, would it be cool if we do ice bath with Kyle and Luis after I work out? She sends a link. She says, what the F is an ice bath? She says, but Kyle being weird AF lately and giving me a really bad feeling, and you wanting to go makes me feel worse. And he says, what up? And she emphasized, what is an ice bath? He said, you put a bunch of ice in a garbage can, not a dirty one, and then get in it. It's an athlete thing. Really good for your muscles. She says, Kyle is so effing weird. Like a grown man is trying to take a ice bath with 3 kids. I don't think I remember this, so I think we're good. Are we good? Are you guys hating on me? Yeah, we are. Yeah. Oh, do you guys want to take an ice bath? I can only handle like 3 minutes, maybe even 2. Don't come for me. Okay, we good. All right. She says, like a grown man is trying to take an ice bath with 3 kids. 2, she says, like, who the F invites people to an ice bath? Why don't you think that's weird? She said. He said, I asked him what he was doing. Mackenzie says, OMG, this is making me so mad. Let me write this down. She says, OMG, this is making me so mad. And he says, why? WTF? Why you gotta do this to me and give me shit? Like, I'm trying to work out, he said, and not smoke. And you just giving me mad shit. F off. He said, this is on 8:22 at 10:53 a.m. in the morning. Yo, if your partner's telling you to F off at 10 in the morning, y'all got issues, and I'm here to be a therapist. Therapist Melly. She thinks everything he does with his friends is weird. She doesn't know what an ice bath is. Mallory, we're going to pretend we didn't hear that because this is ridiculous. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. And he says, F off. He says, I can do what I want. Kyle can do what he wants. And Mackenzie says, wow. Dom says, you can do what you want. And she said, how about you go F Kyle then? And he says, we all are our own people. And then she says, clearly you want to be around him and take ice baths with a grown man. Oh my goodness. It's getting crazy in here. I need to go back. Dang, I know. Uh-oh. And she says, thanks for making me sad, she said. Like, we made plans. He says, Thanks for making me mad when I'm just trying to work out. Can't do anything without getting phone, he said the R word, graped. Oh my goodness. She says, phone grape? I did not spam you. Why are you trying to argue with me? She said, like you asked if you could go bathe with a grown man and a 14-year-old, and I thought it was weird, she says. Like we made plans to go swimming and you, of course, you have to make plans with someone else. Why do you got to do this to me? She said. He says, N-word, it's only 11. I could be there by 11:30 and be gone by 12. Get the F out of my space, N-word. We have all day. She said, I just said it's weird. He says, like, I'm trying to pick up weights, not text war on my phone. She says, you should see why that makes me uncomfortable. But whatever, go if you need to. Okay, is she really uncomfortable or is she just being controlling? That's wild. She's such a brat. She says, but whatever, go if you need to. It's weird AF. Like, why are you even doing ice baths? She said. He says, leave me alone till later. She says, is Luis alone with Kyle right now? Bruh, like, what is your issue? She said, and she put like 20 E's. He says, what's your issue? F off. I do shit with you every day. 80% of my day is you. Like, just F off. She says, I don't care if you chill with your friends. I'm just saying, I think it's weird what you're going to do. He says, you obviously do. Like, you don't have to get so defensive. She says, well, of course I do, but I'm not going to let you, I'm not going to let you not go if you want to. Like, I don't like Kyle that much after what happened last time, she said. And he says, you're gay about me chilling with anyone. I shouldn't have to ask you. Like, I have to ask you to hang out with my friends. And she says, no, you don't. You just tell me. He says, I take you out to $100 dinners every week. I do everything with you. Like, I'm better to you than anyone is to anyone else. I can almost guarantee that. No, I'm not wasting all my time texting you. Haven't worked out at all. See how much time I put into you? Like, now I lost my pump and I want to leave. She says, look, just go work out, but till will you be done? What time will you be done with all that shit? He says, I don't know now. I'm going to go try to enjoy myself and take my time. She says, you're such a DICK. I try to fix it and you say that? Whatever, Dom. And he says, just stop giving me shit for stuff if it's not affecting anything. She says, like I said 5+ times, that it's weird AF that a grown man invited you to an ice bath. I'm not saying you can't go. I'm saying it's weird ass shit. And now you're going to quote unquote take your time. You just said that to me to make me upset. Like, you could have just gave me a little time. I'm not trying to argue. I'm just saying. And Dom says, no, I hit him up for you because maybe we can swim at Luis's and they're doing ice baths. And I said I could come literally, like, if you, wait, what? Sorry, there's a typo. No, I hit them up for you because maybe we can't swim at Luis's and they're doing ice baths, and said I could come. Like, literally, if you weren't arguing with me on text, I could be going in 10 minutes and could be back by 12. But you just got to stress me the F out and make me mad and make relaxing time into stressful annoyingness when I already deal with so much of this on the daily. Whoa. He's like so sick of her shit. I do ice baths. Is that weird? You guys think I'm weird? Everyone does ice baths. Yeah. Okay. So she says, I was never trying to argue. You know, she ruins all of his time with his friends. I think that it's just so toxic. Like every time they're trying to do something individually, they each ruin it for each other. And it's like, isn't that just emotionally and mentally draining? Like, so she says, I was never trying to argue. I sent you a place we could go to, she says. And Dom says, some things you don't say even if you think that. And she says, what? And he says, just stop texting me for a while. She says, why do you keep saying a while? Like, work out, go to the weird bath, then we can go somewhere. Like, a while is like 5 hours. Like, I need to know a time, she says. And he said 7 p.m. And she says, WTF? You're so mean for no reason. Dude, it's literally 11:21 a.m. And she's doing this. She's like, give me a time. And she doesn't even have a life. So it's like, what do you even need a time for? Like, you got all the time in the world. Just shut up and just like wait. I don't know. Sometimes like this is a little much for me. She says, you are so mean for no reason. Like, what the F is wrong with you? And he says, thank you. And she says, I'm about to text Kyle and tell him he's weird AF. She says, for bathing with young ass kids, you are fake AF. Like, you just started shit for no reason, she said. OMG. I'm texting him. And Dom says, F you. I'm done with you, he said. Wow. So she threatens to like hit up his friends. Whoa. That is, wow. She is so dumb. I know it's dumb, but like, think about it. They're younger too. And it was back then. So it's just like, oh my God, the fact that you're even trying to bully someone. She's literally saying she's going to bully his friend. Like, that's psycho. You guys, that's psycho. I don't care what you see on the internet or whatever. That's literally psychopathy. Like, the fact that you have to bully someone because you're not getting the attention you want and you're not getting the answers you got and that you want and the responses you want from specific individuals is literally insane. Imagine that situation, but in your 20s. Yeah, exactly. Ausane, you owe me 20 kisses. Mallory says she's truly unable to give Dom any space at all. Maybe that's how Jodi Arias started. I do think that. I do think Mackenzie is a baby Jodi Arias. The mini Jodi. Can we call her that? We're going to call her Makilla, but we can call her baby Jodi too. She's disgusting. I wish he'd just let her go. He deserves time with his friends. Yo, no one deserves to be bullied because your partner is controlling and crazy. Ausane says, do you have a kissy payment plan? No, you better get on it real quick. Yeah, Tay, I agree. He deserves times with his friends. Okay, let's continue. He says, I'm done with you. She says, no. She's like, no. Someone breaks up with you. Hey, I want to break up. Like, I don't like you anymore. I don't love you anymore. No. That's crazy. He says, we can chill another day. She says, WTF, question mark, exclamation mark, times 7. He said, I just said 7 because you were bugging me. And it's not like we're going to be next to each other. And she says, how was I supposed to even know that? He says, F you. You're a bitch, for real. And he says, Mackenzie says, like, you say shit like that all the time. Wow. Isn't that weird how fast you can switch on me and just say mean shit? Like, in a matter of 2 minutes. He says, isn't it weird how much I do for you and how hard of a time you give me? She says, you can just say all that easy AF. He says, yeah, I'd say so. She says, I am not giving you a hard time. I tried to fix this like 3 times. He says, sure. She says, and you just keep saying mean shit. I'll screenshot, she said. He says, I don't give an F. You kept pissing me off. She sends a screenshot, not the screenshots, not the whole ass screenshots, you guys. Oh my gosh. I was saying, if you don't charge your phone, we're gonna have issues. Oh no. Codependency. They both depend on each other to feel what they need inside. They just don't know how, because the push and pull is so addictive. And so she sends screenshots and she says, you should. He says, N-word, that's not even bad, honestly. It's break time, for real, for real. She says, OMG, no, the F it's not. Why do you always go there? She says, like, this is not fair or nice. She says, I do everything for you, even if it's not about you. Like, your friends always win, she said. I'm always there for you, having your back. And you can't even have a combo with me. He says, we're on a break until you realize I put you first before anyone. What? That is crazy. She says, like, that shit hurts. I know you do. He says, and that you consume 80% of my day. She says, I never said you didn't. Why are you taking this somewhere it never was? He says, and that I do too much for you. She says, Dom, we're not going on a break. I can never do too much for you. I make sure you in bed almost every night. Like, what the F do you think I am? You act like I don't care and I'm ungrateful. He says, I do too much to get annoyed like this. Couldn't even let me work out. And she says, I never meant to make you so mad, Dom. I just said it was weird. She said, I don't care if you do. And Dom says, well, you're bugging me the whole time, calling and texting me. And she says, I just needed to know a time. And of course, she said 7 p.m. He says, I think we need a break. She says, OMG. No, we don't, Dom. Like, why? No. She's typing in caps. He says, yes, we do. She says, no, we're not going on a break, Dom. I'm not okay with that at all. Why don't you care? He says, I'm not okay with you right now. She says, you're being so mean to me. Did you forget what I told you yesterday? He says, no, you don't understand how stressful you are to me. She says, we literally never argue anymore. Wait, what? Girl, you be arguing all the time with him. What are you talking about? Okay, these are the moments I realize she's like the really crazy one, because she's like, we're never arguing. She doesn't see it. Like, she doesn't see how toxic this is. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. Like, she's like, we never argue anymore. And yeah, we know these are just texts like in the evidence package, but still it gives us a look around at how much they were fighting. So as much as they were texting, this is as much as they were fighting. Like, this is almost every second of the day. It has to be deteriorating for your mental health. No, not that I'm saying it's right or anything, but like, no wonder she did what she did. And I'm wondering if there was enough time, it could have it possibly gone the other way? Maybe. She has no clue. She thinks it's mean to tell her no. I know, Mallory. Who the F does she think she is? Yes, we're about like almost to 2021. If only this break was the end. We never argue anymore. I know. Like the good old times. It can definitely break them down. We're just reading these years later as adults. Imagine. I think about myself back in the day and I'm like, I don't know. All killers don't like being told no. That's true also. She says, we literally never argue anymore. And she says, except this. And that's mean. Like, why are you being like this, Dom? She says, like, this isn't you. He says, and until you Dom, this is what he said. And until you understand that you get whatever you want and you pout and complain all day, and I still give you whatever you want and take so much time out of my day for you, we are on a break. And she says, no, we are not. I never said anything about that, Dom. What the F is going on? I appreciate everything you do, and I tell you that. Answer the phone. Like, this is serious AF. You can be just saying shit like that and then ignoring me. Like, Dom, I never said I don't understand that, like, you make sure I'm always happy. I don't know why you think I don't get that. Dom, she says, call. He says, no, I'm so strong for you and you don't care. She says, I do care. Why are you saying this? He says, you push me till there's nothing left. Oh my God. He should have blocked her. Being toxic is a learned behavior. Oh my God, I hate that she says no when he says he is done. You two did. She's like, we're not breaking up till I say we're breaking up. I gasp. It's crazy. True words. He says, you push me till there's nothing left. She says, like I do. He says, you don't care about my mental state at all. She says, Dom, no, I don't. He said, all you care about is let's do something fun. He's like, you don't even care about me. This is sad. And then he says, all you care about something fun. She says, I care about you so much. Where are you getting this? He says, if you care about me, then don't effing text me. She says, like, that is not what I do, Dom. He says, I guess you don't care. She says, I do. He says, that shows you don't care. You just showed me you don't care. Wow. She said, that text sent before the other one. You know that. I stopped. He says, wow. She says, I care about you so effing much, and you know that. All I think about you. You're my effing everything, Dom. He says, wow, you really don't care. She says, Dom, you know I do. Oh my gosh. I want to scream my brains out. Dude. Like, I want to scream, like, just stop, Mackenzie, just stop. Like, just stop right there. Don't move, don't breathe. Like, just stop. It's so frustrating. She says, Dom, you know I do. Stop, she says. This shit is so effed. Why are you doing this to me? She says, I told you I'm done arguing 498,327 times, and you just keep trying to be mean or fight with me. Like, I would die for you, Dom. He says, I told you stop texting me or you don't care, and you keep texting me, so obviously you don't care. She says, I keep going because you keep saying that. He says, look, I'm not stressing or wasting time over you anymore. If you're giving me shit or wasting my time, I'm simply blocking you. I do too much to get stressed over this. I have too much stress to deal with this. I do have to stop and say, you know what? What does he have too much to do? Because he's just selling rugs and smoking blunts. He's smoking woods all day, every day. So, like, what is he doing? What is so stressful that he can't handle his crazy girlfriend? Not that I'm saying he should. He shouldn't. I'm just saying, like, why? You know what I mean? Ugh. I just feel like, what's the stress he's dealing with? Like, what don't we know? Yeah, he sells rugs and he's super stressed out. So he says, I have so much stress to deal with. He said, if it's causing you too much stress or time, just chalk it. Just chalk it. It is what I say. I think that's a typo. She says, Dom, we never fight about this. Dom, we never fight. This is our first effed argument in over 6 months, so we just need to chill out. You know that blocking shit don't work. It really just makes issues worse, and it's really toxic. Like, I still want to hang today. We don't have to do anything if you don't want to. I just thought we could go swimming because it's going to be 86 today. When you're done working out, please text me. That was literally at 11:58 a.m. 1:14. She says, what's up? He says, I'm done working. I'm smoking with Kyle and Lewis, and I missed the ice bath. She says, would you want to go to Crocker Park? I low-key want to go there. It's cool if you want a homie day, though. She says, I think I found someone to take some plants. She could take Hella. She says, if you don't want to go, I'm going to go right now. Please answer. She emphasizes it. He says, okay, go. She says, did you see what I said about the plants? He says, don't text about that. She says, you free? Wait, what time was that at? He says, don't text about that at 2:04 p.m. Then she says, you free? At 7:21. She says, we need Bud. He says, not right now. She says, okay. She says, snap. He says, what's up? She says, you really going to send me a preset message? He says, I didn't. LOL. She said, you did. I know you did. LOL. You can at least try to answer fast. He said, what? She said, can you try to answer at a normal time, please? He says, yeah, I was eating. She says, how's the food? And I'm kind of bummed we didn't hang today. He says, it's okay. We can hang another day. She says, shit just sucks. I feel like if there's an opportunity to chill with your friends, you will just ignore or shit like that. Okay. He's literally giving her like another pass. He's like, fine, we're fighting. I want to break up with you. Then she's like, oh, never mind. Like, let's make up. What are you doing? Want to hang out? Blah. And then she's like, back to it. She's like, oh, but she's back to being a bitch and harassing him and controlling him. And I just, do you see? Here we go again. Thank you. Don't answer. Answer fast. Can you imagine Mallory every day? Pink Balloons 99 says, because of Dom, her parents didn't have to deal with her BS. No wonder they loved him. That girl was too much. I agree. And thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Why didn't no parents stop them? What do you think about that, 99 Pink Balloons? I'm just curious, getting opinions. At a normal time, like 2 seconds. I guess I know what that's like, to go from like being lovey-dovey and like, oh, we're fine, we're good, spending money on each other, like whatever, and then to like fighting. And they do it so much that it's like crazy to me. I'm like, wait, it seems like every day there's something going on. Okay, so she says, I feel like if there's an opportunity to chill with your friends, you will just ignore or shit like that. And he says, no. She says, all right, please just try to text me more, babe. He says, okay. She says, you promise? Like, getting little random texts from you is the best. He says, okay, babe. She says, like, I know I've been annoying lately. I don't mean to be. She says, I just been sensitive AF and thinking about shit that don't matter too much. No, you're being annoying AF. And he says, it's okay, babe. No, it's not okay. This is the problem. This is why we're here. This is literally why we're here. Let me turn the page so I can write. I just figured out too why I messed up earlier. I'll tell you guys later. He says, it's okay, babe. She says, not even going to text me goodnight or anything? Yikes. She says, OMG, I just had the worst dream ever. This is the next morning. Here we go with the dreams. Why does she always do that? She says, if you ever cheat on me, I'm going to effing kill someone dead ass. He says, LOL, okay. She says, nice reply. You're not even going to ask what happened? He says, sorry, I just got up. I'm really tired. What happened? She says, yeah, I figured. I'm just tweaked right now. I literally just jumped up. He says, you know I wouldn't do that, babe. Okay. Two things. Why is she manipulating him with the dreams? Like, we all hear it. She's always like, oh my God, I had a dream about you. I was thinking about you. Like, she always does that when she's trying to control him. And then two, he's like, oh, I never would cheat on you. And we all know that he's cheated. So they're just a bunch of liars. Mentirosos. Liars. That's what narcissists do. They keep on a roller coaster to screw with your head. Yes, Margaret, babe. He says, you know, I wouldn't do that, babe. It'd have to be like Beyonce, he said. He said, you would have to look like Beyonce for me to cheat on you. I'm done. I'm done. He sends blank text. He says, what happened in the dream, though? Here we go. You guys ready? Ready? Here's a dream. I literally had a dream where I walked to this party and it took me so long to get to this party. And I thought you were going to be there waiting for me. And you had to like climb up this weird ass mudslide. And Carl pulled me up. I don't know why. So I'm finally there. I walk over the bridge and go in the door. And you're sitting on this small ass couch with like random dudes and AJ. And he's cuddling with this bitch. He seen me and was like, oh shit, I did ass, ran over there and fucked everyone up. Like I never fought good in a dream. Like I can feel the hair in my hand, but that shit was so bad. It was a tan girl with light brown hair, she says. I have so much anxiety right now. He said, so AJ was with the bitch or me? LOL. She says, you. AJ was just laughing. I've been up for long. He says, that's tough. She says, what's up now? He says, I'm with Kyle setting up the phone. You guys, I cannot. She's like, I had a dream you were cheating on me just to get attention from you. Hey, Laura, when you speak. Oh, okay, Divine. That's interesting. He's like, I don't want you unless you look like that big bootay Beyonce. But then he's like, but you're just as good, Mackenzie. I just treat you like shit. Here we go with the bullshit dreams. She acts like... Okay, I'm done talking. He says, I'm with Kyle setting up the phone. She says, you going to be done with all of that soon? And he says, yeah, I'll try. She says, yay. Don't rush, though. She says, I don't care how long you take. Just hit me up when you're done. He says, okay. She says, keep me updated. That was at 12:43. And then at 1:43, literally an hour later, on the dot, she says, did you finish? She says, it's been an hour. I thought we were supposed to have a fun night. Like, now I probably won't be able to sleep that good tonight. Oh, so he didn't hit her up. Or he did? Because she says, did you finish? That was at 2:30. Then at 10:32, she says, I thought we were supposed to have a fun night. Like, now probably won't be able to sleep that good tonight. And I just wasted like so much time. Like, I even came over to you when you were rolling to talk and you just sat there. She says, of course, already did. He said, I was planning to go to bed at 11 anyway, babe. She says, like, we literally planned a sleepover. Like, I'm for real about to be so mad. He says, come smoke. We can have fun. We can stay up and have fun. I have 2 blunts. She says, now I'm annoyed. And why? We both know I'm going to end up standing there doing nothing. He says, laughter is the best medicine. Let's do something funny. And weed. Weed is good medicine. She says, like, you haven't talked to me since you turned on the game. I'm really annoyed right now. I am almost just want to go home. Like, you're not even trying. You sparked it too after I was obviously annoyed. And you just go to Angelo. Starts in 2 minutes, she said. Can you hurry up? Oh, wait. So that was on 8:23 at 10:38 p.m. Then the next day, she says, starts in 2 minutes. Can you hurry up? And he says, I can come pick you guys up now to go. She says, go where? He says, never mind. I guess we won't go cliff jumping. She says, like, we can effing go. Like, holy shit. I don't deserve this. Like, I don't at all. And he says, me and Blair about to go, LMAO. She says, so you're leaving me? He says, no, I'm just kidding. Come with me and bring some Xanax. What? Who has the Xanny bars? Whoa. Who's getting the Xanny bars? Is she on them? Who has a prescription? Is it her parents? Mackenzie? She's getting them? I thought it was antidepressants she was on. What? Her mom's, Mallory said. She over there just popping them Xanny bars. What? Okay, so he says, is he joking? He says, bring some Xanny bars. Well, he said, bring some Xanax. He says, call me when you're checking out. She says, I fell asleep with milk and spilled it all over my bed. This is the next morning. Well, it's 3:44 in the morning. Oh, so she must have gone over there with Xanny bars or something. And then she woke up at 3:44 in the morning. She says, I fell asleep with milk and spilled it all over my bed. He said, oh no. She says, I'm in school right now, freshman class. He said, at the gym. She said, oh, I'm gonna hang with Maddie because she's having a bad day. We can hang after. Can I get some bud? I just see a state trooper going down my street. I'm gonna drop money to Alex, then be on the way, she says. Can Maddie come in, yes or no? And he says, yeah, I don't care. And she says, okay, bet. She says, we're coming. She says, like, next I tell you look really cute. Please don't say I look funny and ruin my confidence. Wait. She says, we're coming. Then she says, like, next time I tell you I look really cute, please don't say I look funny and ruin my confidence. Wait, I'm sorry. She knows Zanny the nanny? If you know, you know. If you know, you're a real true crime sleuth like me. No, Jamie, don't leave me. That's hilarious. Okay, so she's like, you're ruining my confidence. He must have said she looked funny, I guess, in front of Maddie. Thank you, Margaret Babe, for becoming a new member. Appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Every day is yeah, I know. Thank you, Margaret Babe. So she says, ruin my confidence. She says, I literally want to take it down. Like, that shit is hurtful AF. She says, at least answer. He says, I said that's funny. Like, I'd look good in dreads, let's say, but it'd be funny if I got them. And she says, I know what you mean, but I just thought it looked really cute until you said that. It upset me. Like, I know you were stressing about other shit, but you could have just said that's cute. I'm not even mad about it anymore. I know I look good AF like I always do. I rolled my eyes and they're stuck. They're stuck like behind my head. No, he says, well, I don't like being really affectionate in front of people either. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, my baby is so perfect. That's cringy AF. I'll say you look good. And she says, that's all you could have said. That's good too. He says, can you get me food? She says, are you serious? That shit is so toxic, Dom. I thought you were done with the blocking. Like, why do you always have to do this? This isn't you. He says, you were being crazy. So yeah, I had to do that real quick. Wait, so how did they jump from, let's go back. So he says, can you get me food? That was on 8:25 at 6:35 p.m. At 7, she says, are you serious? So he blocked her for like an hour. She says, that shit is so toxic, Dom. I thought you were done with the blocking. Like, why do you always have to do this? This shit isn't you. He says, you were being crazy. So yeah, had to do that real quick. Now I'm even more late. Was supposed to be in the shower 15 minutes ago. And all of this because of, and she said, it's okay, Dom. Just get in the shower and relax for a little and I can bring or drop off food. Add me back on Snap. My mom got the resin. Natalie Shirilla is getting the resin. Where's she getting resin from? So she be smoking on that marijuana. Marijuana. Natalie Shirilla, you keep being exposed in your daughter's text messages. You liked smoking the resin, you were getting it, and at some point you supplied it. Don't come for me. Don't get mad at me. I'm not the one doing it. Oh gosh, says Creed. She's 15. Yeah, I guess the mom's getting resin. I don't know, from on the street or like the club, club. What? Whim's like, this family is wild. Yeah, I don't know. Natalie Shirilla, pull up. Natalie Shirilla likes to get high. Jessica says dispensary. Hey, she says my mom got the resin. Babe, Dom. She says, what's up? She says, you called me, babe. I'm actually going somewhere in Brunswick. So I'll be back soon. I can bring the hoodie. Oh, wait. Let's get to the next day. So she says, you called me, babe. That was at 8:24 p.m. Then the next day she says, I'm actually going somewhere in Brunswick. So I'll be back soon. I can bring the hoodie. He says, okay, let me know. She says, babe, I'm there. So many people. She says, the COVID parking lot was literally full. He says, it's okay. Just got angry for a sec. For real. She says, I'm wearing 2 masks. He said, oh, it's just a hospital. She says, and it's all right, babe. He says, probably from no sleep. She said, yeah, Cleveland Clinic in Brunswick. He says, I'm going to get food and some energy drinks. She says, okay, baby. He says, she's blank message. She says, bruh, Jada just texted me back. My heart beating fast AF. And she says, babe. He says, what did she say? And she says, I didn't open. Dom says, oh, you want to wait till you see me? Since I'm one with the people, since I'm here with the people, she says, where are you at? And that was on 8:26. And then the next day at 6:24, she says, morning, babe, about to go to the doctor again. Oh, so maybe Mackenzie had the vid. He says, let me know how that goes. She says, I'm in class right now. I will after. He says, okay. She says, babe, are we hanging today? She says, babe. He says, I don't know what I'm doing today. He says, I got to run to Jared's at some point. She says, do you just want to go alone or can I also come? He says, I don't care. I'll see what's good. Maybe I'll go alone because you're always with me. She says, that's okay if you do. What if we go to the Alapet farm? Then after that, we leave to Nelson's and stay there the night in a tent. He says, I made plans Sunday with Kyle and Bradbury. She says, when are you going to do that? We could go back before you have to go. He says, I never been to Nelson's. What we got to do? She says, there's hella shit to do. You can scuba dive. And he says, no, to get there and get in, we got to pay. She says, oh, let me see. She says, want to hang out when Maddie has her appointment? He says, probably. She said, bet. He says, I need food. What should I eat? She says, shit, I don't know. Pasta sounds good. 5 Guys. He says, I didn't eat breakfast. She said, I'm about to be at the mall. I can bring you food. $50 per person, she said. Not bad, said Stom. We got to plan it. She says, we can plan today, invite Blair and Mallory over. He says, oh, you mean Nelson's or the alpaca? And he says, should I say something to Vinny about it one of these days? She says, both. Alpaca morning, then after that, Nelson's. She said, and what would you say? It's $50 per ticket, and there's an $11 processing fee, so it would be $110 total. He says, N-word, they going to both or just one? She says, both probably. They said both. I've been texting Mallory. He says, you did? When did you want to chill? She said, Maddie's leaving at 3. He says, because Joey wants to chill. She said, do you want to just chill you two? And then she says, babe. He says, yeah, because we can't find anyone else to chill. So I'll just chill with him for a little. She says, okay, that's fine. She says, I don't really care. Are you coming with me and Maddie tonight, though? And he says, where? She says, Maddie just left. He says, I forgot where. She says, don't say. And he says, oh. She says, the thing. He says, I don't know. She says, you don't have to. She says, Dom says, not tonight. He says, wait till like next week. She said, really? Why? He says, are you going to get her in trouble? She says, okay. Dom says, if someone stole from me and I do something to them the next day, they know it's me. Wait, so Mackenzie was going to do something bad? They don't want to talk about it in text. Wait, let's go back. We need to get the tea. I'm shook. Who's she talking about? This is crazy. Okay, she says, Dom says, she says, Maddie just left. And he says, I forgot where. And she says, don't say. He says, oh. She says, the thing. He says, I don't know. She says, you don't have to. He says, not tonight. He says, wait till next week. She said, really? Why? And he said, because it can get her in trouble. And Mackenzie's, it can get you in trouble. And Mackenzie said, okay. And he said, if someone stole from me, I would do something about, and did something about it the next day, they would know it's me. Mackenzie says, okay, fine. He says, yeah, expose her. So oh my God, Mackenzie's having problems with somebody and she was going to do something about it. And he's like, no, because they're going to know it's you. What was she going to do? Like key someone's car? Resin is weed concentrate. Thank you, Sunshine Chicken. Country Chickens. Yes, listen to Laura. Hit the like button. Right now before I block you. Just kidding. Yes, more to come. Clearly, Melly is the ultimate streamer. Thanks, Oatmeal. So Natalie Shirilla was sedating and medicating Mackenzie and not taking her to mental health profession. Natalie should be in jail. Dom's mom is a mess too, but Natalie is something else. I kind of agree with that, Phoenix. I really do. Austin says probably. Savita says Natalie is the unknown caller. Oh my God, she totally is. Laura says, see, Dom knew she was crazy. That's why he kept her around. He was freaking afraid of that lunatic. Yeah, I could see that. He said, expose her somehow. She says, but you want to hang right now? He says, you know you can. What? I'm reading your guys' comments. Okay. Oh, sorry. I clicked on the wrong screen. He says, you know you can. Expose her. Oh my gosh. Mackenzie said, ask Joey for her nudes. Mackenzie is so shady. I'm sorry. That is low. She's telling Dom to ask his friends for the girl's nudes so she can go bully her and expose her. So foul. Foul. And if you're any girl that does that, foul. Not that any of you would do it, but I'm just saying. Is that the Ribbit, I think? Hey, Ribbit. This girl's crazy. Yo, Tay, that's whack. It's really low. Are we surprised, though, said all saying? No, we're not. True question, true answer. She's only 15. That's mean, dude. Okay, so she says, ask Joey for her nudes. Tell him to send them to me. I know Joey has them. And he says, you might get in trouble for that now. I think about it. She said, I don't know. I'm going to do the other thing. And where do you want to hang? She said. He says, where or when? She says, when? My bad. He says, I don't know if me and Joey hooping soon or a little later. He says, because it's really hot right now, so we could maybe chill for a little bit right now because I'm not doing anything. I just been messaging people, or we could go chill after I go hoop. She says, let me know ASAP. He says, okay, 1 sec. He says, you can come. We hooping at 6, even if I do go, and Jared's going to let me know when to come. She says, okay, I'm on the way. And she says, on my life, my house makes me really sad. Wait, okay, so she said, I'm on the way on 8/27 at 4:08. Then she says the next day, on my life at midnight. She says, my house literally makes me so sad. Like, I come home and my whole bed is made with shit like I don't use and I don't like. And I have to take all that shit off my bed. So annoyed. Wait, what the hell is she talking about? Is she talking about like sheets and comforters and something called pillows? You know, like a pillow, you sleep on it, you put your little head on there at night. When you go night, you know, like what is she talking about? Yeah, I know. Mallory's like, we don't got time for this. Yeah, what a brat. She's, oh my gosh. If someone made my bed every day and there was like pillows and little dolls and little sheets and stuff, I would be so happy. I would be like, please make my bed every day. I'm a queen. You know what I mean? She's so ungrateful. Natalie would make and clean her room. Who's going to come and do that to me? Who's going to do that to me? Oh, Joseph. Hey, Joseph. Thank you for becoming a new member. Welcome to Mellyverse. Her mom ran a daycare out of the home. So that's why she made her bed. Welcome, Joseph. Really? How dare her mom clean her bedding and make her bed? Exactly. Well, Austin, you better hope I don't figure out where you live. They use resin to make crafts, just saying. Oh. I'm catching your drift, baby. I'm catching your drift. Got you. Shocked. I love my bed with so many pillows, says Scott. Yeah, Beth. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's continue. She says, I'm so annoyed. He says, at least she tried. No one has ever made my bed. Thank you, Dom. We're over here having a whole ass conversation about it. And Dom is like, you're so ungrateful. And she says, Dom says, I didn't have a bed till I was 8. Wait. What? Okay, why? He didn't have a bed till he was 8. Did they not have a home? Were they like low income or something? Like, hello, I'm curious. Or was he just living in a bad home? No, this matters. I thought his mom was a lawyer. Why didn't he have a bed? I'm pretty sure CPS can come for your children if they don't have a bed. Am I wrong or am I wrong? I thought I saw that in one of the cases. Poor Dom is sleeping on a doggy bed over in the corner. Laura, her mom was, number one stare. Yeah. Poor, do you see what I'm saying? Kenzie's going to say she cleaned his room. Yo, why didn't he have a bed? Jamie says you're correct. Yeah, CPS can take your children if they don't have a safe place to lay their bed at night. Don't come for me. I don't make the freaking rules. But why didn't Dom have a bed? There was 6 kids living in the house. Oh, they were like sharing a bed? Or they just didn't have any beds. Now I feel terrible. I'm like, there's a lot we probably don't know. Maybe he lived with dad while mom was in school. I don't know, just guessing. Maybe he stayed with his dad. Wonder if he shared a bed. I just hope he had something. Like a blanket, a bed, sharing a bed. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like now I'm questioning things. Dom has a lot of trauma, said Melly. He says, I didn't have a bed till I was 8. Like an actual bed I slept on for the floor. I slept on the floor for years. Oh. It's kind of sad. He had a house though. Later he had a house. But as a kid, you guys think, I'm not thinking like an adult, like get your ass to sleep on the floor right now. You know, but like whatever, we'll sleep on the floor. We're adults. But like as a child, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we get drunk and pass out on the floor, or like we sleep on the floor when we're having a sleepover with like your kids or my nieces and nephews and stuff. Like that shit is normal. But like he's saying he slept on the floor for 8 years. We have questiones. Okay, so he says, like an actual bed, I slept on the floor for years. She says, OMG, for real? I'm sorry, babe. He says, you can't stress over simple things. I know I do all the time, but you gotta be better. She says, I'm chilling now. He says, we are blessed. She said, it was annoying at first. He says, I know. She says, and I will tomorrow. I'm so tired though. He says, I have sudden annoying rage moments. Okay. This is when I feel like we're going into therapy here at Mellyverse. Let me take notes. He says, I have sudden annoying rage moments. Could be why he sells drugs for becoming a better him, if that makes sense. Totally does. I ain't knocking it. Dom was adopted. I thought that was Davion. Davion was adopted. Yeah, Davion was adopted, not Dom. Way more of a secret than name old Kenzie. So he says, I have sudden annoying rage moments. She says, I got no sleep the last couple days. Yeah, I know, babe. It's about to storm really bad, babe. And I got this weird ass voicemail. I want you to hear it. He says, I got a weird ass text message. He said, what's the voicemail? She said, let me screenshot. What was it? She said. She sends a screenshot of the voicemail. He says, so great. Whatever. Oh, he says scam. He typoed. She says what? And he said scam. He said, so great. WRT is what the text said. She says, I hate my room so much. I'm not going to sleep in there anymore. I'm just going to sleep in the game room. What is her problem? Like, what is her problem? He says we're blessed. I know. It's so sad. Dom looks exactly like his mom. Yeah. Oh, share a bed. Maybe. She's ungrateful. What is it? What does she not like about her room? I'm curious. She says, I'm going to sleep in the game room. My room shouldn't make my anxiety go 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. Why is she so ungrateful? Like, I had to share a room, well, when I was a kid, but like, still, you know what I mean? It's got so much context. I know. What an ungrateful witch. Maybe she ought to get rid of those stuffed animals and dolls. The fact they have a game room and she's complaining, right? He says, I don't get it. He says, I'm mad again at Bernie's car. She says, like, it doesn't look good in my room at all. Everything is so messy. Nothing ever looks good. He says, I'm so mad about the car. I need a new car, like right now. She says, what happened? I'll help you find a good one. He says, N-word, I don't want to find a cool one. Then I got to spend more money. And she says, okay, I was just trying to help. She says, what's up? Question mark, question mark. He said, who was screaming? That hurt my ear. She said, no one? He said, okay, sorry. He says, well, that hurt my ear, whatever it was. She said, well, what's up? She says, what are you doing today? He said, right now, Blair is here. She says, you want to hang today? He says, probably. Okay, let me know I'm watching the kids right now, she says. Dom says, that's what was screaming. She says, I swear they weren't. It was quiet when I called you, not even loud. And he said, I don't know, my ear got effed. It's all good. It's okay, I know. And she says, I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my phone. I'm gonna go get it fixed. She says, when will you be free, babe? And then she says, hang soon. Didn't mean the exclamation. And he says, okay, so here's the plan. I got a shower. Me and Mish want to chill with our friend Marcus soon because it's his birthday, only for a little though. Then also Kyle wants to smoke later and you can come too. So like whenever I'm back from smoking with Smeesh, we can chill. She says, okay, that's cool. And he says, for sure. She says, it's raining so bad outside, babe. And he says, I know, I'm stuck next door because was talking to my dad. He says, what fit do I wear when it's this bad out? She says, honestly, I don't know. I hate being outside when it's raining. Gives me really bad anxiety. She said, did you see the sky? And he says, not really. She says, it looked so scary. He says, wild. And she says, I'm about to eat some mac and cheese. He says, I could never. Sounds dank though. She says, it was pretty good. I'm about to go to the school to get my books in a sec. And he says, nice. She says, I'm there right now on the way home. What are you doing right now? She sends a TikTok and he says, so they must have hung out. That was on 8/28. And then she says, hi, babe. Good morning the next day. And he says, good morning, baby. She says, how did you sleep? She says, I got like no sleep because I was excited. He says, pretty good. Want to come cuddle? She says, yes, I do. But before we got to go to the animal farm. We could go back to my house so I can put a cute outfit on and do my makeup. He says, sure. She says, okay, yay, on the way. That was on 8/29 at 9:47 a.m. Okay. Oh, okay. She says that was on 8/29 at 9:47 a.m. Then at 11:22, she says, the fact that you just left me crying in here is effing unbelievable. So like, this is another part of these texts that makes me think like, wait, what was going on aside from the text that we didn't see? Like, she's crying. How did it go? You know what I mean? Like, how bad was it when they were together? I'm almost wondering if it was worse than these text messages when they were actually in person. She says, the fact that you just left me crying in here is effing unbelievable. And he says, bruh, I don't know. She says, how the F don't you know? Like, I literally told you I couldn't sleep last night because of how excited I was. And this is how you're going to act. She says, it's been planned for days. She says, like, we have people going with us. And I'm trying to plan everything, but I can't even ask you because you flip out at everything I ask. Today was supposed to be so fun. And of course, you just do this shit. She says, I wanted to have fun. Dom says, I wanted to have fun too. She says, don't lie. If this trip mattered to you at all, you would be helping me. She said, like, who the F tells someone that they're so excited that this trip is going to be terrible? Who the F says that? Like, I've been waiting for you to stop throwing an effing fit for like 2 hours so I can ask you shit. But of course, you just come in and say the most hurtful shit you can think of. Quote unquote, can you just bring Maddie? Yeah, I'll go to the farm with Maddie, Blair, and Mallory. Like, how effing dumb does that shit sound? Like, you just don't care. And Dom says, you just think that I want to be angry. Mackenzie says, so being angry makes it okay to say that shit? Oh, so she's jealous because he said something like, bring Maddie. She says, so being angry makes it okay to say that shit? Yeah, I don't think so. Like I said, like I still can't even believe you left me here crying because of you. I'll just have my effing mom reschedule. Thanks, Dom. He says, I don't know what to do. She says, I don't care. He says, I don't. That's because of me. Just go with your family and I'll just do nothing and be angry. She says, I don't even want to go anymore. Like, I'm so effing sad right now. Dom said, see, that's what happens to me. She says, I got no sleep for no reason. And he says, but I get really angry and frustrated. She says, and you get mad over dumbass shit and ruin it. And he says, then I don't want to go. She says, like, F. And he says, I get mad for no reason. Actually, there usually isn't a reason. So we're not going now. Or do you still want to go? I can go eat and smoke and try to go. She says, now you want to try? Can't even say no? Bruh, did you for real just go into your room? He says, why? She says, like, if you don't come out and talk to me, I'm a flip out. He says, why? She says, why? Why? Why again? Why again? Why do you always just say that? Like, it's effing annoying. Makes me want to throw my phone. Okay, I'll just go home if you want to be like this. Thanks for ruining a day of fun. Now, alpaca appointment is tomorrow at 2. He says, well, tomorrow we're supposed to go rock climbing. She says, you can be back by 2. Sad how that's more important to you than this. When you only known him for a little ass amount of time. Dom says, I'm not going either. She says, OMG, what the F is wrong with you? She says, it'll be 20 minutes at 1:46. Answer, so I know you're okay. He says, it's okay. I'm okay. I'm just chilling, reading. She says, are you going to come out at 4:07? He says, I don't know. She said, you said 20 minutes. Like, I can come in. He says, not right now. She says, at 47, can I? Now? And he says, not yet. He says, I think I kind of figured out anger. She says, what do you mean? He says, so like you're optimistic, you expect certain things to happen. Like example, my mom expects the house clean. When it isn't, she's angry. But if you're pessimistic, which is the opposite, then you don't expect anything good. So the house isn't clean. Let's say you don't care because you didn't expect it. So I just got to be more pessimistic when I think. Kind of the same thing for being sad. You get let down when you're sad, except I don't get sad. I get angry AF. But when I do get angry, how do I fix that? Because yeah, if I'm pessimistic, I'm not going to be angry in the first place. But when I do, how do I fix that? Like I'm angry right now because I'm being optimistic. This is working but it's not. So I'm angry. Like when I'm angry, I just want to die. Okay. I feel like he's having an episode here. Do you guys feel this? Like there's literally, we know he was, I don't know if he was bipolar or had a mood disorder or a lot of trauma or something. He's trying to be like Gandhi and like give these very spiritual advice, but he's like trying to take it for himself. But he's admitting like his own problems, like while he's talking. And he's like I'm angry. I just want to die, he said. Like, you know, people say things when they're angry, but like this is constantly coming out in these text messages. Like they both constantly say this type of shit to each other. And it's just, you know, it kind of just gives a better perspective on like how they're kind of feeling, you know? He says, like, when I'm angry, I just want to die. And she says, I understand what you mean. How do you make yourself pessimistic if you're already optimistic, though? She says, I feel the breathing thing could work too. She says, can I come in your room at 2? Wait. So she's over there. Sorry, my AC just kicked on. So he was reading books to better himself. Yes, abuelita. But she's at his house and they're fighting. So he's in his room reading. And she's in another room. This is wild. I wonder if they could have been fighting. She was speeding and maybe he was grabbing the steering wheel. Just a theory. Yeah, Jamie, we've said that before. I definitely think that's a possibility. You know what I was thinking too? I was thinking like maybe something happened at that party and maybe we're not aware of it. Or maybe Dom was the only one and Mackenzie. Like when she says it, they say that she was sleeping. Her and Davion were like sleeping or whatever. And then they left that morning, the morning of the accident or crash, whatever. Remember how they said like in the police report that we read, make sure you watch that live too, guys. Check out the playlist. But in that police report that we read, it was like Dom wasn't in the house or whatever, you know, like they were like Mackenzie, the friend said that he saw Mackenzie sleeping. And Dom was like smoking or sleeping. I don't remember. But Dom wasn't there. So could Dom possibly have been in the room with someone else or doing something? And then Mackenzie caught him and she was like, get your ass in the car. And then they were like in the car fighting. What do you think about that theory? I'm reading your guys' message. They make each other worse for some reason. It's so sad and bad. I think he cheated that night because where was he? Thank you, Olivia. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. Possible, because where did they had just talked about reconciling, but they were fighting. And so like what caused this to happen in the room? I mean, in the room. I was reading a comment that night. Like what happened? Crazy B. He's cheated before. It doesn't look good. Why was Dom's seat completely reclined? Probably polarizing opinion, but I think Dom played a way bigger part in the tragedy, whether it was mind games or actually grabbing the wheel. Thank you, Beth. I think this too. I think Dom played a bigger role in this. I thought the car was in neutral, but then put back in drive. Yeah. So was it Dom? They were fighting, cussing each other out. Just place yourself there, guys. Close your eyes. You're in a toxic relationship. You're driving. You're fighting. She's saying things. He's saying things. She's like, I'm going to crash this effing car. Like, you don't know how mad I am. Like, you think you're going to break up with me? Like, you think that? Like, and they're fighting and she's speeding and stopping. And then maybe Dom or maybe Davion was pushing on putting it in neutral, putting it in drive. You know, like it could have been a chaotic thing. That was a little like acting moment. We had to get in the moment. Get in the moment, you guys. Get in the moment right now. She already had a restraining order. Oh. I think maybe he was asleep. It was early and maybe she had an opportunity, then woke up. Them sleeping was probably a lie to cover up the fact that they were fighting, awake and fighting. I could see that. Jamie says, and we read the messages more. I thought it's both of them. Careful, Melly, you might summon her. Dom played a huge role in the dysfunction of this crazy relationship. Okay, so she says, can I come in the room at 2? Just a theory. Let me know what you think. He says, no. She says, well, you said 20 minutes ago you will come out. It's been way longer now, she says. Dom, can I come in? She emphasizes it. She emphasizes again. He says, no. She says, why? ... She says, I knew you were going to do this. Can we please chill out now? I've been out here for almost an hour. Please, she said. So do you not want to go to a hotel today? He says, no, I don't. She says, sad face. Can we please go? It will be fun. We can go when you chillin'. That shit really is stressing me out. I want to hang with you, but I don't want you to be mad. He says, I just feel terrible all the time. Imagine this is 2 years before, too. He was probably trying to stop the car. I could see that. But if Dom did something to do with it, that would mean Mackenzie must not really remember what happened, because why wouldn't she just say that he grabbed the wheel and save herself some years from prison time? Good question. Jamie says, or maybe she was speeding and they were fighting and perhaps he grabbed the wheel. I think both could have contributed with their awful impulsive mental health and anger issues. Addicted says Davion maybe tried to put the car in neutral because Davion saw how bad they were fighting, and maybe Davion's like, oh shit, and pulls it in neutral. Doesn't work. She was found over Dom's lap. She was blocking. No, I think Davion was laying over Dom. Tika says, I think Dom and Davion had seatbelts off because they wanted to jump out of the car, but couldn't because the doors were locked. I wish we would have known if the doors were locked or not in the crash report. That's a good thought. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so let's see. Good point. Yeah. Okay, so he says, I just feel terrible all the time. And you barely care. You just care about your llamas. She says, no, I do care about you a lot, Dom. If I didn't care, I would have been left. But I'm staying. I keep trying to talk to you and to be there for you, but I don't think you want me to be, she says. I don't know how you want me to help you. And I cared so much about the llama thing because it was pre-planned and shit. You would probably understand. Like, I'm always here for you, babe. You mean the world to me. I want to come sit with you. What do you want me to do, Dom? She emphasizes that message, and he says nothing. Leave me alone. She says, should I just go home then? And he says, sure. She says, sad face. I really don't want to leave, Dom. I want to hang with you. If I leave, will you come get me when you're not mad anymore? She questions the same message. She says, okay, do you want me to stay or leave? And he says, shut up. She says, I can come back in a couple hours if you want. My mom is redoing my room right now. Okay, he doesn't want you to come back in a couple hours, and you're ungrateful little brat. Your mom is redoing your room. I can't. I just can't. Mallory says she threatened to wreck the car before too. Yeah. Well, the doors were basically torn apart and whole one side. Yeah. Phoenix says, question, were the child safety locks on for Dom and Davion's door? Did the police check that? I'll have to go back in the report. I don't remember that. Rebecca said, under the steering wheel, trapped inside the car. Yes. Divine says, I think Davion flew in the front seat. Yeah, I think so. I don't think he messed with anything. Right. Could be possible. When she accelerated, someone woke up, someone threw it in neutral, and then she yanked it because they were going to hit on the right side of the car. I think maybe Davion's body was thrown. You guys. And she'll never tell the truth. Because it probably won't benefit her anymore. or any less. So she's like, I'm just going to stay quiet. Anyways, that's just my thought. She says, my mom is redoing my room. My closet is about to look dope, she says. And he says, nice. He's like having a meltdown and she's worried about her damn room. He says, nice. I was literally mad 10:30 to 4. Wow. He keeps track of the times that he was angry. He's like, I was mad from 10:30 to 4. Whoa. He says, that is so gay. She says, yeah, for real, but at least you're chilling now. He says, kind of. She says, you know what you should get into? I feel like it could help you release anger. You should box or get a punching bag in your garage or your room. He says, can you order something for me? She says, what do you need? And what do you think about the boxing? Are you ignoring me, babe? And he says, no. She says, did you see what I sent you on Insta? And he said, no, what is it? She says, you still didn't look. She says, why did you look at it and not open it? And then he says, what's up? She says, I just drove past your house. Who's there with the Honda? I've never seen it before. But look at Insta too. Why aren't you looking? She questions it. This is low-key making me mad. He says, I'm rolling a blunt. What Honda? She says, in your driveway or the black car. I've never seen it before. He says, black Honda, sedan or SUV? She says, behind the Mazda, not Ash's car. He says, I don't know, for real. She says, are you sure about that? Is it still there? The car sketched me out. Who are you smoking with? She says, Luis and Kyle. It's Donnie. That's there. You don't know him. She says, is it a Honda? LOL. Or was I wrong? She says, I'm about to go to Fridays. When you leave Kyle's, can we hang? He says, probably. Yeah. She says, okay, bet. She says, talk to you later, babe. And he says, okay. And then 2 hours later, she says, what are you doing? He says, just got home. She says, I'm about to be done eating. Can I get dropped off when I'm done? And he says, yeah. I seen Blair on the highway. She says, LOL, for real? That's funny AF. What was he doing? Dom says, I don't know. We were dropping Luis at dinner and we seen him on the way back. I wonder what he ended up doing. And Mackenzie says, blank message. And then he says, what's up? She says, where are you at? He says, I'm at Subway. She says, why? I'm here, LOL. He says, giving this Ian kid a cart and Dom be here. She says, are you coming back? Can you just come back now? Dom, so are you coming back? And he says, I'm on the way, 1 sec. She says, I ripped off the eyelash. Keep an eye out. I'm so bummed. And he says, why are you bummed? She said, I lost an eyelash, babe. Okay. This is the next morning. And she says, but good morning. He sends a picture of something. She says, call me when you're off the phone. She sends a TikTok. Did she lose one eyelash, just like one strand or one strip? Because girl, get your shit together. He says, Ashish and Paul. And then she says, how's it going? She says, will you be back soon? He says, about to be on the way back. She says, yay, I'm hyped. He sends a screenshot. She says, OMG. That's raw AF. You did good. You so cute. How far away are you? Insta. ASAP. The next day. Morning, baby. So they must have hung out. This is 8:31. She says, morning, baby. Want to hang after my school? He says, what time? She says, 1:40. I joined a government answer group and Jada is in it. And he said, ew. She said, I know, right? Answer, babe. Hanging at 1:40. He says, maybe. He says, I'm with Blair. She says, well, yes or no? And he says, well, right now we smoking. About to get Chick-fil-A. You want a sandwich? And we could probably chill later. She says, not really. Maybe fries. She says, answer ASAP. LOL. You didn't even give me the chance to say bye. He said, fries? She said, yes. He said, okay. She said, yo, babe. He says, everything is cool now. Maddie isn't trustable. And she says, call me. What even happened? Dom says, I'll tell you when I see you. She says, are you saying I shouldn't trust Maddie? When will you be free? Babe. He says, yeah, I'll be free a little later. She says, did she say something about me? I'm worried AF. He said, nope, everything is chilling. I'll tell you later. He says, thank Ferran, for real. And Mackenzie says, bruh, no, why her? I don't like Ferran. Now I'm anxious. Dom says, she told me. Then we straightened it out. Mackenzie said, what did she tell you? I for real don't trust her. Dom said that Maddie is lying. Oh my God. Here we go again, you guys. This is crazy. The tea, yeah. Good morning, babe. If you guys don't text me that every single morning, I'm going to freak out and we're going to have issues. Shame he didn't know what a relationship is supposed to be like. That's sad. Maddie is a problem. Thank you, Cree. Maddie is a problem. Maddie got to stop messing with other females' man. You know what I mean? Okay, let's continue. She says, Dom says that Maddie is lying. Mackenzie says, I don't like her, but that's good. Dom says, yeah, me either, but I'm thankful. They're talking about that Ferran girl. And she says, and you think we'll hang before 5? I don't know what she was lying about. I want to know what happened, Mackenzie says. Dom says, I don't want to text. Mackenzie says, ... Can you answer about hanging out? And he says, we could probably hang around 5. I'm trying to chill before we do. She said, that's fine, babe. I'll talk to you later. And she says, so where are you at, babe? And he says, I don't know. What do you want to do, babe? She says, I want to come over. We could do whatever. He says, right now, me, Angelo, and Blair are just chilling, so I don't know what I want to do. She said, I can come hang with you guys. Question mark, what? And then she says, so what's going on? So she tried to call him, and then she says, cool, hang up on me. That convo made me annoying AF. Like, you can tell me things without being rude AF. Dom said, same. She said, of course it did. He said, LOL. She says, it's just annoying waiting to hang out when you never planned on telling me a time. I'm going to hang with Maddie soon, probably, but I feel like I shouldn't. I'm honestly so annoyed that shit happened. He says, yeah, just don't say shit. Don't even say you know. She said, she told me what happened. I didn't say anything. I FaceTimed her to ask, what are you doing? And she told me what happened. And Dom said, oh, okay, what did she say? Actually, just tell me later. Is Maddie still the one supporting Kenzie? Yeah, I think so. This girl's always in the middle. I know. I have those texts too. I just haven't read them because they're so long, but we will. She hit the grassy area. She probably tried to straighten the car out, but it was too late. And then she says, okay, so let's see. He says, actually, just tell me later. She says, yeah, that will probably be better. He says, for sure. She says, question mark. He says, sorry, I left my phone charging. And she says, can I get Bud? He says, can I do it at 8:30? She says, not now. He says, well, I'm not home. She says, can I just give you a 10 and take a G? We about to leave to go there right now. And he says, yeah. She says, okay, bet, I'm gonna leave you money. She says, babe, answer quick. Can I also give Maddie 4? He says, yeah, weigh it. Don't let her go in. She says, I know. He says, sorry, talking to my dude. She says, I never would. It's okay, babe. What are you doing right now? For sure, or don't answer. He says, talking to my dude. She says, big dude. Important. Oh, so it's his rug dealer. So Dom is on the phone with the rug dealer. This is years before the death. It's a year and a half at this point. Yes, Tay, I have them. Yeah, so he says important, and she says, where you at? He says, Kyle's. She says, Dom says, we were on FaceTime with him. Now we're smoking. I'm going home soon. Mackenzie says, what are you doing, babe? Later, she says, you shading me out. You taking long AF to reply. You're so bad at replying. And he says, sorry, I was eating. Now I'm just chilling. She says, I'm on the way back from Edgewater. Hella cops were there. Want to hang? He says, sure, but I don't want to go to bed late tonight. I was up really late, so I'm going to bed before 12 for sure. She says, that's fine. He said, for sure. She says, can I get dropped off? She said, in like 10 when I'm back, question mark, question mark. And he says, yeah. She says, okay, I'll be over soon. And then at 12:23 in the nighttime, she says, sleep good, babe. The next morning, she says, you post before you tell me good morning? Wow. Literally, if I woke up to that, I would be like, block. Hope Kenzie sent $40. That big rug dude? Yeah, that big rug dude. So she says, you post before telling me good morning? She says, what's up, babe? He says, never, not much, taking a shit. She says, I'm doing school right now. Boring AF. He says, I could maybe come chill. She says, OMG, really? That would be so fun. My next period lunch too. He says, okay, I'll see what's up and what I got to get done. I don't know if I'll come though, because I'm not showered or anything. She says, okay, babe. She said, someone swiped on my story and just recording themselves making weird ass sounds. And he says, what story? She says, my snap. She sends a snap. And then she says, should I do that to my nails? And he said, that's cool. And she sends 3 pictures of her nails. She says, pick one. She wants him to pick like what she should do with her nails. She says, are you still on the phone? He says, yeah. She says, when you're off, call me. He says, okay. She says, do you want to go to... So she says, okay. And then she says, do you want to go emergency? Go with me. He says, emergency? What? And she says, never mind. I meant go with me. Do you want to go with me to get my nails done? He says, I probably can't. She says, why not? He says, me and Smeesh still talking, gotta run a couple places. She says, my school is over. Can you please try to text me a little bit more often? He says, yeah. Dude, she's crazy. He says, I've been a little busy today. More often than they're already texting? They're literally texting every minute of the day. She seriously can't think for herself. Here we go with the nails. Dude. Yeah, I know. It does throw, just Jamie says it always throws me off when he's the first one to offer her to hang. Why does she even want to bring him to the nail salon? I know, Ticka. Let the man avoid the nail salon. She does not know how to be independent at all. So then she sends another picture of nails. Oh, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4 pictures of nails. She says, please help. What you think? He says, second or third. She said, I was thinking the first one, but I don't know. He says, first too much. She said, I can get any color flame. He said, I don't know, it's hard. She says, I'm stressing. I think I'm going to get black French tip. What you think? He said, that sounds dope. She says, I'm scared. I never got something like that before. Dude. Why are you even doing it then? Why is she trying so hard to be something she's not? Like, I send 4 pictures of my nails and asked him to go to nail salon. I'm sure by the time I got home, his stuff would be out of the house. Laura, why did she go there before if it was only once? I'm scared, WTF. You guys, I can't. Another picture of nails, you guys. He doesn't give a shit about her nails. Can someone tell her? Like, he don't give a shit about your nails. Okay. What's she scared of? It's nail polish. Okay. She's like, I never got something like that before. She's like, I'm going right now. You're so ass at replying. She says, it's been 2 hours. Okay. He says, I've been doing shit, babe. He says, what are you doing now, babe? She says, I'm on the way home. Do you want to hang? I got my nails done. He says, I was about to get food with Angelo and Smeesh. He says, let me see your nails. She says, oh, what food are you getting? And she says, and are we not hanging today? She said, I sent my nails on Instagram. He says, no, we can probably hang later. Kyle wants to porch sesh, so we could stop there. She says, all right, scoop when you're free, babe. He says, okay, babe. Literally 2 hours and 15 minutes later, she says, what are you doing now? She says, what food are you getting? You've been taking over 10 or more minutes to reply all day. Imagine someone's timing you. Well, she got like huge nails. The black tips are giving me anxiety. Her nails are horrifying. So she says, wait, imagine someone texts you like you took 3 minutes to text me this time, not 4. Or the opposite. You took too long. You're too fast. You're too slow. Which one is it? Oh no, not my whole 10 minutes. I don't think I've received a text like this in a very long time. And I think I last blocked that person. And she says, you're taking over 10 minutes to reply. And he says, what's up? She says, don't send me pre-typed messages. Oh my gosh. So he's doing those like, you know, when you like text, it's like, what are they called? It says like, oh, I'm not available right now or something like that. That's what he's doing. Make sure you respond with a 5-minute max. They are not attractive nails at all. Not the whole 10 minutes. Okay, she sends me, don't send me pre-typed messages. He said, it's not. He says, I typed that. She says, it is. It didn't say read. He says, I pre-typed it. She says, you would know what's up if you read the message. He says, I'm eating food. She says, where? And what time will you be home? He says, Rosewood, dinner should be here. She says, bruh, never mind. He says, what? He says, I'm home now. She said, scooter. Oh, she meant scoop me. Typo. Literally, that's a typo. She says, Dom says, I'm already here. Can I scoop in 10? She says, sideways face. Let me see if my mom can just take me. He says, click this link to add Philanilla as a friend in Brawl Stars. So it's a game. He sent her a link to a game. She says, morning, babe, the next day. He says, morning, baby. She says, I'm doing math right now. It's so hard. Dom. And he says, what's up? She says, who are you smoking with? He says, Bard. She says, what are you doing today? Want to hang with Kristen and Kyle? He says, I got to meet up with my big guy. I don't know when. She says, would you be able to come over tomorrow and sit with me and help me do math? 12 to 3, please. He says, probably. She says, how's dinner going? He says, not there yet. He says, everything's great. She says, oh, that's good. Are you guys going to Square 22? He says, yeah, LOL. She says, when will you be home, babe? He says, we're still eating, then going back to Kyle's. Sorry, today's important. She says, it's all good. Just let me know when I can come over. And he says, okay, babe. She says, how long? He says, no idea. Dinner's almost over. This is at 9:03 p.m. He says, need to talk soon. She says, okay, how was your food, babe? Are you free? Question mark, question mark. And he says, no, we're still talking. Then he says, I'm home. She says, same, forget tomorrow. She says, come at 11:30. He says, okay. He says, I'm not ready though. She says, what do you mean you're not ready? The test is today at 12. My camera have to be on and my mic. So you have to sit away from the camera so you're not in the frame, but close enough to see the questions. Oh, so he's helping her cheat on her schoolwork. She says, and when you're done with the question, you're going to slide me a notebook. I hope this works. He says, I'm not going to know them. She says, well, I'm not going to Polaris. That sucks. He says, because I can't do a test for you? She says, I needed someone to help me with math. He says, good thinking, Kenzie. Let's see where this takes you. She says, why are you being rude? Like, I'm stressed as shit about school and you're going to say that? She said, I asked for help and you said, yes, you could help. Like, you told me not to go to Andrews for help because you said you can help me. Like, I could just pay him to come here and take the test. So you're telling me you're not going to know any of the answers? This is for real so bad. And Dom said, I was just saying I can help you study for the test, not do it for you. She said, OMG, I'm literally so effed. F my life. You don't even care enough to reply. He says, you didn't make it very clear. If you told me I'm taking a whole final for you, I would have said no. Yeah, you guys, we're witnesses to that conversation. She never said, do it for me. She said, come help me study. She's literally crazy. Is this a replay? No, this is live, baby. Can you imagine trying to teach her math? No, I do not. I cannot imagine. I cannot. Okay, so he says no. He says, I thought it was just a regular test. She said, it's 40 questions. I've been talking about this final for weeks. Like, I can't do this shit. I've been bawling my eyes out for like 20 minutes trying to find someone to help me. You know what, you guys? At this point, she belongs in prison because she can't do shit for herself. She's too focused on Dom to study or take a bath. That's true. She's mad because he won't do her test for her. Like, what the heck? Air, water, life, trees, anything else gives her anxiety. They should have locked her in a room with rubber walls and let her have all that anxiety by herself. She can't do math. She can't be respectful. She can't be a good girlfriend. She can't follow the rules. She's bawling. She don't stop crying. Her mentality is so effing unattractive. So then why was Dom cuddling with her and with her? I need to know. I'll show you guys my nails. My nails are cute. Cuter than Kenzie's. Prison assistant. She can't make a bed. I don't know, you guys. Okay, let's see. She says, I've been bawling my eyes for 20 minutes trying to find someone to help me. He says, I have no reference of what's going to be on the test. I'm not going in it without studying or reviewing anything. He says, I wouldn't want to fail. She sends a question of the test. She says, that's a video of the pretest. Oh, that's what she said. Sent. She said, all you need to do is get over 65%. Like, I'm so effed. He says, that's not even geometry. What are you doing? She says, it's algebra 1. He says, no. Like, what are you doing? She says, what do you mean? He says, that is terrible. She said, Calissa said she would help. Jada also said she would help. Dom says, I don't think that's going to help much. Mackenzie said, she's in trig. That's smart math. Calissa coming over. Dom says, if you want, have her help. Mackenzie says, I don't know. They both coming. He says, really? He said, they're both coming to your house. She says, Calissa here right now. She's helping me. I did so bad. I hate my life. He says, ask to retake it. She said, I did, but it's really bad. I'm sad AF. He says, how bad did you do? She says, 40 something. F my life, F my life, F my life. He says, damn. Ask to redo. I'll help you. She says, are you sure you will help? I'm asking right now. He says, yeah, if you give me time, I'll help you study. She says, I need it done by next week. He says, okay. She says, you can do the tests for me. I'm ready. How long? How long? Babe? He says, on your street. She says, I'm hungry AF. He says, what do you want? She said, sideways face. Good night, babe. I low-key wish I didn't fall asleep so I could cuddle you. He didn't say he would take the test for her. Is she slow? Is she slow? And then whatever. And then she's like, at 12:11 at night. Good night, babe. I low-key wish I didn't fall asleep so I can cuddle you. And this shit hurts. He says, I can't sleep now. She says, oh God. And then she says, morning, babe. He says, good morning, babe. She says, hi, babe. He says, what are you doing? She says, I'm just chilling, anxious AF about my test. She says, want to come over and hang until 3? No, Mackenzie. Study for your stupid ass test. Don't hang with him. Yeah, she's slow AF. Oh my God, she doesn't even want to try. No, she doesn't. She says, want to come over or hang until 3? She says, I can come over if you bring me home around 2:30. He says, maybe. She says, you better not wait. He says, maybe. And then that was at 11:23. And then there's 2 text messages that are redacted. Then she says at 1:01, you better never say that shit to me again. The disrespect, she said. Effing gross. I'm trying to have your back. I don't know why you don't understand that. She says, did you really just block me? He says, you shouldn't hit me up on there. She says, like, you can't just say that to me. He said, my freedom comes first. Your freedom? Oh, snap. No. Is it lagging again? Why is it always when we get to this mark? Is it? I'm good. Okay, good. So let's see. He says, my freedom comes first. She says, especially in front of a friend. I understand that, but I told you to help you. He says, it don't matter. She said, just never say that to me again or it won't be good. I don't deserve it. And that was at 1:10. And then he says, do you have bacon? And she says, maybe. She says, we don't. You want my mom to get you some? And he says, I'm starving and really want bacon. She says, she can. Dom says, I can just go to Drug Mart. I just have no socks or shoes on. She says, oh, just wear slides with no socks. I email my teachers asking for help and they ignore me. Dom says, email them again. He says, don't go to class if they don't answer. She said, just did. He says, and if they say you not going to class, then say you ain't helping. Call the school. She says, it's just annoying because I'm confused. I'll figure it out. And he says, do you have that sausage I bought? And she says, probably. We do. He says, want to make pancakes and sausage? He says, you probably won't want sausage. She says, give me 10 minutes, then sure. She says, got to be back by 2:30. He says, okay. He says, that's not a lot of time. She says, you can come back with me. He says, I have to shower. He says, come make the pancake mix so I can make the sausage. She says, okay, fine. I'll come. Give me 5. She says, on the way. Also, you got to drive me back at 2:30. He says, okay. She says, babe, I only have $20. He says, I'll give her the rest. She says, you can come over. Just be quiet. He says, I can't. Sheen is here. You come get it when you're all done. She says, okay. She says, I got 60. He says, oh, for real? He says, so you failed again. He says, I guess you have to be a millionaire like me. She says, I'm for real gonna cry. He says, billionaire. He said, everything happens for a reason. He says, I didn't care when I couldn't pass. Okay, Dom isn't a billionaire. And why is he acting like that? She thinks Dom's around her. Who is Sheen? Sheen is one of his friends. They call him Shmeen. She thinks Dom is her chauffeur. He says, I don't care when I couldn't pass. She says, I care about Polaris so much. That must be a school, right? She said, that shit is so sad. Dom says, you can still get into Polaris next year. She says, I did it. I got an 80. He says, you can come. She says, okay, bet. Please, on my way. He says, let me know when you're here. She says, here. She says, where are you at? He says, come outside. And that was on 9/4 at 4:47. The next morning, she says, morning, babe. He says, good morning, babe. She says, when are we going to the parties today? So let me know when to be ready. She says, babe. She says, can you answer? He said, I was showering. You have plenty of time. She says, FaceTime me. He says, what are you doing? Want to get picked up? She says, yes, babe. Come. He says, right now? She says, give me 5 minutes to pick shoes. Then yes. He says, okay. She says, you can come. I found shoes. She says, where are you at? Who's at your house? Red car. He says, Lyle. She says, what are you doing, babe? He says, I'm hanging. Oh, Kyle. He says, I'm hanging out with Kyle. She says, sounds fun. I just ate. He said, what do you eat? Oh, was this the next day? It's weird how she's like always watching who's at his house. Oh no, it's the same day. He says, I'm hanging out with Kyle. She says, sounds fun. I just ate. He says, what did you eat? She says, Chinese. He says, nice. She says, I'm just chilling now, waiting for cake and shit. And he said, for sure. She says, Kristen want to hang with me. He says, whatever you want to do. She says, I want to hang with you. Both. How long you chilling with Kyle? He says, I don't know. He says, we can hang later. She says, bet. He says, LOL. She says, the convo my family's having right now got me dead. He says, what are they saying? She says, I'll tell you when I'm with you. He says, okay. He says, I miss you. She says, I miss you too. What are you doing right now? He says, smoking with everyone. She says, that sounds fun, babe. I'm gonna go home, shower really fast, then smoke with Kristen, then come to you, babe. He said, okay, Kyle isn't here, but he's coming back. She said, when, babe? He says, I don't know. We're at my house. He's probably gonna eat dinner here. He said, did Kristen tell you they were fighting? She said, yeah. She told me not to tell you. Apparently they're on a break right now. What's your mom making? Dom said, shish kebab. She said, ooh. Dom says, LOL. He says, you can probably come eat here. I'm sure she won't care. He says, yeah, he told me not to tell you. He says, but I want to care for my boy. She says, be there for him. He needs it. I really do feel bad for both of them, she says. And he says, right? She says, I'm with her right now. And he says, for sure. She says, what's going on? And he says, we're watching the Lakers. She says, how's that going? He says, Lakers are up. He says, I'm happy about it. And she says, Bella Simone is here. She says, LMFAO. So want to just hang tomorrow, or is Kyle dipping soon? He says, we're still watching the Lakers. So I don't know, babe, up to you. I'm going to go climbing again tomorrow. She says, I still would chill, but when I'm going to be home tomorrow, babe? He says, I'm meeting them at 11 to climb. She says, okay, want to hang after? Maybe tonight? She says, I want to hang. He says, we just got done watching basketball. You want to come over in 30 minutes? She says, yes. At 11:30 at night, she's going over there. And she's like 15 or 16. Polaris is a career center. Oh, nice. So her mom just didn't care. She could just go out and do whatever she wanted with him at whatever time. So she says, yes. She says, can I come sooner? He says, maybe. She says, please, babe. He says, maybe. She says, well, it's late. She says, about to be 12. She says, can I just come over around 11:40? Dom says, I don't know. I have to sleep soon. She says, we can hang tomorrow if you want, babe. It's really up to you. He says, okay, tomorrow's better, babe. Sorry, babe. Yeah, it is. She says, I will come over if you want because I'm always down to see you. FaceTime before bed. He says, sleep over soon, though. I have a new bed. She says, we can hang after you're with Kyle. I will, babe. Answer about FaceTime. He says, about what? She says, want to FaceTime later? And he says, FaceTime? She says, yes. Dom says, we're chilling. We're still chilling. I might just go to bed. She says, Kyle, so no FaceTime? He says, yeah, me, Kyle, Angelo, and Bing. She says, oh, that sounds funny. You didn't say goodnight, sad face. He says, I'm sorry, babe. I didn't know. She says, it's cool. This is at 10:11 in the next day. She says, what's up now? He says, taking a shit. Gotta be at the gym by 11. She says, I just woke up. He says, me and Luis a little late. I'm at Luis's. She says, when will you be home? He says, I don't know, for real. Probably earliest 1 p.m. She says, damn, can we chill after? He says, probably, yeah. She sends a screenshot. She says, LOL, did you leave me on red? And he says, no. He said, it was my car. She says, oh, is it pouring? She says, my lake is so effing flooded. He says, I know it's supposed to flood. Highway was shady. She says, look at my story. Please FaceTime. I can't find my fake eyelashes. He says, I'm rock climbing right now. And your Snap story? He says, I seen IG. Oh no, he says, I seen it. He says, babe. She says, what's up, babe? He says, I don't know. You didn't text back. I answered you a couple of times. She says, oh, my bad. I didn't even mean to do that, but my whole backyard could be flooded today. Are you coming home soon? He says, yeah, we'll be wrapping this up soon. He says, I did better today. And she says, you want to scoop when you're on the way home? She says, oh, do you have vids? He says, no, I'll get some next time. I'm sore. He says, I'll bring you one of these times. He says, maybe just me and you could go. She says, that would be so fun. He says, bet. She says, I feel like I'd be good. She says, but you can pick me up on the way home. He says, yeah, probably. She says, okay, bet. She says, I'm going to smoke with Bella and Kristen real quick. He says, okay. He says, on the way home. She says, how long to your home? She says, I'm going to just get a ride over there because they want to smoke. But as soon as you're home, I'm heading over. She says, how far? He says, I'm about to be home. She says, okay, I'm going to come over right when they leave, okay? He says, okay, let me see what Kyle's doing first. She says, no, I can come over right now. Dom? He says, why? She says, I want to hang with you. She says, don't hang with him, babe. Dom says, why? She says, you're really going to say why? Like, for real? So do you not want to hang anymore? And he says, question mark, question mark, question mark. She says, I'm confused. She sends 20 question marks. He says, okay. She says, Dom, are we not hanging? I'm so confused right now. He says, I guess not. She said, why not? Question mark, question mark. I want to hang. He says, okay, with 20 question marks. She says, you just said we could. What the F is going on? He says, you're annoying me is what's happening. Here we go with the annoying. You know what, too? I was just thinking as we're reading these, I'm like, was he really with his friends when he said he was with his friends, like late at night, et cetera, et cetera? Like he went from being at Kyle's to being at Luis's at 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. What is going on here? Just a theory. Like, could he have possibly been already like cheating on her? I don't know. Just thoughts. Something seems like off, and he's never with her and he's never home. Like, Forgotten says, I think he's with another girl. I think every time he's really nice to her, he's got somebody else. Why he being all nice and sus? Right, Beth? Good night, Laura. Thanks for being here. She doesn't seem to be having a hard time in prison. No, she doesn't. Absolutely, right? I get those vibes. And then here, he's back to being mad now. He says, you're annoying me. It's what's happening. She says, how? She says, like you said, why to me, saying I want to hang. He says, you're not patient at all. She says, I didn't know I needed to wait. You were supposed to pick me. He says, you don't need to wait. You just need to be patient. Well, yeah, you do need to wait, but patiently. LOL. She says, I'm trying to call you. What I say doesn't make you mad or something. I'm confused AF. He says, nah, let's just talk later. She says, so we're not hanging soon anymore? Sad face. Like, I was ready to hang. He says, doesn't mean that I was. She says, Dom, you were going to pick me up. Like, WTF. Like, why you got to make me feel like I did something wrong? She emphasizes it. She says, that shit is stressing me out so bad. Like, why are you being mean to me now? He says, what the F? He says, F off. This is on 9/7 at 2:01 p.m. in the middle of the day. He says, F off. She says, LOL, okay, Dom. Let me know when you make up your mind. I thought you wanted to hang with me. He said, I said probably. I don't like getting pressured. Mackenzie says, I don't even try to pressure you. Like, I thought we were just going to hang because you said probably, yeah. They leaving right now. They left. He says, okay, we can probably hang later. She says, okay, please don't ignore me. Can we hang around 4:30? He says, I don't know. I'm driving my mom to Scotty's and I'm getting a bottle and blunts for Thomas before he goes back to college. She says, okay, that's fine. She says, I'd be down to come with you if you want. She says, but I don't really care if you want to go alone. He says, I'm already on the way. She says, oh, okay, babe. She says, guess what I'm having my mom get me? Prosciutto. I think that's how it's spelled. She says, how about after you do all of that, you scoop me? She says, Dom says, no, we can probably chill later. She says, babe, can you please text me nice? He says, yeah, just don't complain. He says, Mackenzie says, I never was, but what are you doing now? Dom says, nothing, about to get food, waiting for Thomas and Kyle. She says, what food? And you think you will be there for a long time? Dom says, where? And Mackenzie says, aren't you chilling with Thomas for a little? He says, probably not long. He'll probably come through. He has to leave to go back to college at 6. She said, why is he back today? Dom said, it's his mom's birthday and it's Labor Day weekend. She says, okay, well, we can hang when Thomas leaves. I miss you. He says, I miss you too, babe. He says, love you. I'm going to link with Kyle for a little, he says. Then we will have the rest of the day together. She says, love you too, babe. Okay, bet. I'm excited. She says, you think we can hang soon? Dom? He says, I'm still with Kyle. She says, how long? You were with him for a long ass time yesterday. He dislikes her message. Dislikes her message again. Then she says, question mark? That's not being nice, Dom. Sideways face. You can at least answer the call. She removes an exclamation. She questions his message. She says, can you just call? He says, you're not being nice. She says, how? He dislikes that. Then she says, you can't even give me a time. Dom says, I'm just chilling and you're spamming me, giving me shit. She says, I've been hanging to hang all day. All you want to do is hang with Kyle. He says, okay, well, I'm going to do that the rest of the day. She says, no. Are you serious? Why do you have to do this shit to me? It's like, you don't even try. I've been waiting. He says, well, since all I want to do is hang with Kyle, then that's all what I'm going to do. She said, for like 5 hours, you really are making me cry. He says, I was even home from the gym 5 hours ago. I wasn't even home from the gym 5 hours ago. She says, are you really going to do that to me? He says, we'll stop complaining and I won't be acting like this. She says, you can't even text me back nice or call me. How do you expect me to just sit here and be calm? I've been waiting since like 2 for you and you don't even care. I let you do all your shit. Like, stop making me feel like I did something wrong when all I've been doing is waiting here. I should have never let Kristen over. Then you would have got me. He says, well, you are doing something wrong. She says, are you kidding me? He says, stop giving me shit. She says, wow. See, this is one of the behaviors where like, I think she's like, I shouldn't even have hung out with my friends. Like, it held me back from hanging out with Dom and him giving me all the attention that I want from him. You know what I mean? So it's like a very toxic behavior where he's makes her feel like that, you know, and she also vice versa. You know, this whole friend thing, hanging out with friends and like making each other jealous and mad. Like, Beth says she dislikes one more time and we're going to have a problem. Yeah, I know. That is exactly, I get those vibes. She says, wow. She says, I really can't believe you right now. You're making me feel so effing shitty. He says, you're making me feel very aggravated. If I can't chill or don't want to chill, then I can't chill or don't want to chill. No questions asked. And she says, excuse me? He says, if I say later, then I don't know how long, so you don't have to ask. You're treating me like shit right now, she says. This is embarrassing. No one treats their girls like this. Like at this point, I feel like you're just keeping Kyle at your house, so it makes me sad. You don't care at all that I've just been waiting for you. Like shit hurts. He says, you make no effing sense. She said, that shouldn't make you mad. He says, I'm muting you. She says, OMG. He says, why the F you gotta make me so mad? Like, are you for real? And she says, I'm not. You're just being rude. He says, this is really what you spend your time on? She says, I'm a stand up for myself. And he says, this is how you use your time, huh? She says, well, then I don't know the time because you won't tell me when I have to wait. Like, you are so damn rude. He sends 3 question marks. He says, I don't know what you're saying. Chris and Thomas coming over now, so we'll probably just chill tomorrow. She says, F you. What the F is wrong with you? She sends a whole bunch of exclamations. Screenshots. Thanks a lot, Dom. She's raging. I can feel it. Can you guys feel it? And she says, thanks a lot, Dom. Thanks for only caring about your shitty friends. Effing fake as shit. I for real can't believe you just did this. You can never keep your word about hanging out. Like, does making me cry make you happy or some shit? If you ditch me, we're going to have issues. He says, because you like to bother the F out of me. Stop wasting your time on this. And she says, you make me wait and then you ditch me? He says, go do something. She says, it happened over 100 times. What the F do you want me to do? Are you dumb? She says, me and Maddie are not friends. It's like you don't even care. Like OMFG, you don't care at all. He says, no, you like to make me say yes to chilling way earlier than when I want to and I'm not ready. You annoy me, so I get mad and then we don't chill. She says, make you? Wow. F you, she says. And he says, you bug me. She says, you're effing fake AF. So are your friends. If you ditch me, I don't know what I'm gonna do. He dislikes her message about his fake friends. She says, you probably won't care because you just let me be upset and be mean to me. And you make me feel like I did horrible things when I just got upset. It's not fair. She sends a screenshot again. For a little, then we have the rest of the day. She sent his own message. He says, this is terrible. She said, so do your own words mean nothing? Dom said, I never asked to deal with this. She says, I never asked for you to ditch me and treat me like nothing all day. You told me Thomas had to leave at 6. Dom says, you're really making me really effing mad. Okay, so stop texting me. This is done right now. She says, then apologize to me. He says, before I throw the whole thing away. No. She says, OMFGGGGG. He says, you pushed me past my limits. I'm not going to deal with this, okay? And she says, wow. Yes, this is during a global pandemic, so there's a lot going on. If these aren't considered issues, does she consider them solutions? Phoenix says, I got Mackenzie in my family, and she finally piped down and focused on healing and changing her ways after she got slashed in the face by the lover, then breaking up. Continuously says, I would throw my whole phone away. Beth says she has a lot of stuff going on in that bobblehead. So sad because if her parents paid attention, this was possibly preventable. I think this was 1,000% preventable. Vacay says, too bad the detectives couldn't have had Melly read these texts to them. So much more interesting. Thank you. That was from Vacay. Mallory says he has told her multiple times and then she just pushes him past his breaking point. So what pushed her past her breaking point that night? I'm really, really curious. Like, I don't think pandemic or not, I think she's a crazy girl. I don't think anything would have changed her. I think she was mentally going through things, and I think this toxic relationship just made it worse for both of them with their mental health issues. Sadly, I really do think that's it. And shitty parents who enabled them and didn't stop them and allowed them to have too much freedom. You know what I mean? Dom and Davian should still be here. This was so senseless. I agree, Tay. So she says, wow. He says, I'm not going to deal with this, okay? Because that's not what I'm going to do at all, okay? She says, I can't even think of what to say. I can't believe you just said that. I'm in effing shock right now. He says, okay, cool. So we're good now? We're going to forget and then talk later? That is so toxic. And to intentionally say that, Dom is just as much as an ass as Mackenzie. I'm not speaking foul of the victim. I'm not victim blaming. I'm just saying, we've talked about this many times here and in the comments, how he enables it and participates in it and also makes it worse. It takes two to tango, baby, chiquito babies. It takes two to tango. He says, so we're going to forget about it and then talk later. She says, I will never forget what you just said to me. I can't believe you just said that to me. I can't believe you think it's okay to talk to me like that. And he says, okay, cool. So we good now? Are you done texting? She says, is it bad that I don't believe you're going to hit me up to hang out later? He says, we don't have to hang. She says, and if it later means past 7, I'm going to be so mad. I've been wanting to hang for 2 days. She says, last night and this morning. Can you try a little, like even a tiny little bit? And he said, look, this conversation is done. Done, he said. She says, disrespectful AF. He says, no more text. Cool. Talk to you later. She says, Dom, OMG, if you ditch me, he says, and I decide when later is. She says, we're going to have issues. You don't need to talk to me like this, ever. He says, okay, F it, I guess. She says, no. He said, this is done. She said, no. What the F is wrong with you? She says, OMG, like, just stop. He says, well, I can't spend time with my friends because I have to text for you. Like, Thomas has been waiting here. She says, Dom. He says, get the F out of here before I say F it. I have enough stress. Mackenzie says, all I asked was how long. Dom says, you're not allowed to contribute. You're not allowed to. Not allowed to. No. Never. Get the F out of here. He emphasizes his message. He said, understood? Question mark. So look, we are done talking. I decide when we can talk later. Mackenzie says, like I said, you don't ever talk to me like that because it's disgusting. I'm done texting you because you're making me just want to cry myself to sleep. She says, and I know you don't even care. He says, I'm going to help out Thomas right real quick so he can go back to college. Okay, cool, bye. Talk to you later. She says, wow. The fact that you can sit here and disrespect me like that is shocking. I never thought this would happen again. This shit is depressing. Like, I dressed all cute for you too, but I guess I'll just go change. LOL, and you still leave me on red. He said, I said we would talk later. She says, it's almost been 2 hours. That is later. And didn't you say 6 is when Thomas goes to college? And Dom said, I say when. She said, it's honestly funny as shit when you talk like that. It's funny how you're still talking like that. Like, it's been hours and you're still choosing Kyle over me. It's past 7. It's getting late. Still not answering calls. He says, I'm chilling with Kyle, Chris, and Blair. She says, N-word. Calls him N-word. She says, honestly, I'm done with this shit. See, like, you give no F's about me. He says, you're tripping. She says, Dom, read our combo. You were mean since like 1. She keeps spelling sense like S-E-N-S-E, like the Sixth Sense. No, S-I-N-C-E. He says, okay, let me read it. She says, Kyle has been at your house 2 days in a row, and you bailed on me twice for him. He says, I haven't seen Kyle in so long. She says, Dom, you see him all the time. Like, that doesn't mean ruin plans with your girl and treat her like shit all day. Like, you know I would come right now and hang with everyone just fine. He says, bruh, we could be chilling if you stop tripping. She says, you're just choosing to not include me. Dom, I'm not even tripping right now. I'm just saying facts. And I didn't text you for like 2 hours. So I don't know what you mean by that. You're the one still mad and leaving me on red. Like, this is one of those days I'll never forget. I have school tomorrow. So you can fix our issue so easy. And I know you know how to, but you're just choosing to make me upset. You can't answer the phone. He says, no, I can't. She says, why can't you? He says, because I'm trying to chill with them and actually have a convo before they leave and not argue with you. Why doesn't she just stop texting? I'm cringing over here. Little psycho bird brain. With this, oh, I don't know how she didn't even give up long ago other than low self-worth and insecurity. Margaret Babe says, I think she was worried because his friends were going to college and that he was going to meet a couple of girls who are more mature that he would like. I agree. I agree with that. Okay, so let's see. So he says, I'm trying to chill with them and actually have a convo before they leave and not argue with you. She says, what are you even talking about? She says, you had all day. Dom says, what do you mean? We chill for so long. Like Mackenzie says, it's like you're trying to make me upset. He says, I've been chilling with Kyle for 3 hours. Chris like 2. And Blair just got here. He says, Mackenzie says, that's your fault for inviting them over when we had plans. Dom says, I'm not trying to make you upset. And she says, I do not believe that. Dom says, but I don't chill with them and they have time today. And Mackenzie says, I can just come over and chill with everyone with you. She says, like, you're making this so hard. And he questions her message. He says, no, not the same. She says, I've been on the bridge of a panic attack all day. How is that not the same? He says, you're making it hard for me to do anything today. And she says, or you can be nice and tell him to leave because we have plans. Like, you can fix this right now. He says, well, it's not the same because without you here, you're not here. She says, or everyone just leaves at 8. And he says, and with you here, you're here. So it's different. She says, it's really not. You all act the same with or without me. Dom says, we really didn't have plans. I said, we can probably chill later. She says, OMG. He says, now we're wasting time again. And I'm going to get really mad. She says, so what you're trying to say is you're not going to let me come over tonight? Dom, we're not even arguing. Calm the F down. And Dom says, if you keep making me mad, we're not going to chill. Mackenzie says, Dom, I have school tomorrow. And he says, okay. She says, I have to leave at 12 or 12:30 if I come over. He says, okay. She says, like, can you be nice? Have everyone leave around 8 and we can hang? Or you can just F me over and not let me come. Like, this is what makes me not F with your friends. I'm about to not be cool with Kyle. He says, you are tripping. Now I'm mad. Pipe the F down. She says, whatever, Dom. Thanks for ruining my whole day and lying to me. She says, that just proved all you care about is your friends. Thanks for hurting me. He says, I chill with you every day. Thanks for making me rage all day and not even letting me have fun with my friends for once. He says, when all of us have been together, it's been so long. But thanks, babe. I take you everywhere, get you almost whatever you want, but you can't let me chill with my friends for one day. But I still do all that, I guess. She says, I let you chill with your friends all the time. I only get mad when you lie or ditch me, and you did both today. Stop acting like I don't appreciate you. He dislikes her message, and she says, no to what? I've been nice to you all day, even when you're talking to me like I'm an effing dog. And that's also never going to happen again, by the way. I like how she keeps saying, like, that's never going to happen again. You're never going to treat me again like that, like blah, blah, blah. And she always ends up allowing it. You know, he allows it. She allows it. It's hard for guys to get help and ask for a restraining order. Well, yeah, that's true. I can see that. It's a little different for guys, you know, but they can just, like we've seen, they can just as much be victims as females. So she says, and that's also never going to happen again, by the way. And remember why me and Maddie aren't cool anymore and that I pretty much don't have friends. Like I told you, I don't have any friends. And I remember you telling me not to worry, but I should have known it was going to be like this. And you don't care. You will never understand the struggle. I just lost my effing best friend and you can't even answer me. He says, I was busy doing some. And she says, okay, well, answer now. You could have just replied with, your answer, but I don't know why you said that. Read what I said. And he says, this isn't my problem right now. She said, it is. You're the reason this shit started because you needed to see what Kyle was doing. And then we had plans. She says, call me. So what is going on tonight? She says. He says, we probably won't chill. Maybe at like 9:30 we can chill. She says, of course. Of course, that's what you say. You just know how to make everything so much worse. If you ditch me tonight, we will have issues. He says, how? She says, I know you didn't just say how. Like, why can't you compromise with me? I'm for real about to flip out. You should see my effing face right now. She emphasized it. And he says, okay, we can chill at 9:30. She said, so you can't compromise? Like, I'm going to be half asleep. Like, you really can't hang at 8:45? That's right in the middle. She emphasizes, I'm about to flip out. She says, OMG, answer so I can leave you alone. If not, he says 9. She says 9:50, 8:50. She says, wait, 8:50. Please, dude, it's 10 minutes of difference. She's a psycho. She says, question mark. He says 9, babe. She says, you really can't go 10 minutes shorter? He says, maybe. Hit me up at 8:50. It's literally 8:50 right now. She says, what's up? She says, you think I can come now? He says, what's going to happen when you come? She says, nothing. He says, are we going to be normal and just chill, right? She says, yeah. Can I come? He says, leave in 5. She says, at 58, I'm going to leave at 58. Ugh. She ends up going over there. You know, it's really wild how they can hang out and just like keep going in this toxic pattern every single day. Like every single day. How's he able to ever calm anything down when she doesn't even calm down? She literally, she's like 10 minutes. She left and is speed walking. Are they arguing about hanging out? Who wants to hang out? I mean, how do they ever enjoy hanging out? That's what I don't get. Like, how do you fight with someone and say hurtful things and disrespectful things and degrading things and call each other names? And then you go and hang out and like cuddle and pretend like it didn't happen. It builds resentment. It builds jealousy. It builds anger. It builds not trusting each other. It builds lack of confidence. I mean, there's so much there. These two are giving me, yeah, I know. Always a threat, always a fight every single day. I don't think they've had a normal day that we've seen it. And if we're just seeing the bad parts of the text messages, I'm really starting to wonder if there was even any really good parts. Like, I don't see that. I don't see that possible. Even if they pretend to have a good day at Six Flags, like, I feel like it's truly never a safe relationship for either one of them. Do you guys feel that? And this is just, we're almost to 2021, you guys. I'm determined we're going to get there this week. We're going to be doing a live every day of the week. So, because I didn't do yesterday. So we're going to make up for it. But I just feel like, where's the parents? Where's the parents here? Other than her mom getting resin. You know, the parents are like never involved. You don't really hear much other than them getting food or their mom's cooking food, and that's it. It's wild. It's really wild. Kenzie loves being given an exact time. It's wild. I can't wait to see when we get closer to the crash. You guys better not cheat on me. I'm watching you. I'll walk there. I'm going to see who's parked in your driveway. It's like the children of the corn, no adults in town. That's very true. Relationship toxicity is so normal to them, trauma bonded. How did they get here? How does one learn to talk like this and be like this at 15? What in your environment taught you that? What did you witness? Natalie Shirilla, we have questions here at Mellyverse. It speaks volumes because she has no friends. Rebecca, no, I don't know her. Yeah, her mother, right, Swifty. Kenzie is a scorekeeper. Yeah, you better not, uploader. Better not be cheating on me. With Maddie. Yeah, is that what you guys are doing? Anyways, okay. We made it to about 3 hours tonight. So I made up for it for a little bit not being live last night. But anyways, tomorrow night, we're going to do a Mackenzie reading, but it's not going to be this long tomorrow. It's not going to be this long, maybe half as long. And then I want to do a true crime after dark night. So page number, I love you guys so much. You want to know what happened? Okay, this is what happened. I'm going to tell you guys before we go. So the file, it's so big that the page wasn't turning. Like the numbers weren't changing. So I have to look at the actual text message page, not like what it says on my Mac document. I have to like actually look at the text message. So don't worry. I looked at it already and I wrote it down. So that's why we were repeating, because I was going based off of like the Windows page, but I actually had to go off of the actual text page. So I wrote it down. Don't worry. It is right here. And I won't repeat myself for the first 5 minutes. This is why I love you guys. You keep me in check. Oh, peep it. I'm a nail model, according to Austin. Anyways, oh yeah, I do want to do a makeup and shopping haul. So tomorrow we'll do Mackenzie true crime. And then Wednesday night, I'll probably do Mackenzie. And then we can do like a shopping live. For the dudes, just shut up and watch us, please. And then thank you, love you. And then for the ladies, that'll always be fun. We like to talk things like that. So a little bit of everything. Anyways, okay, I love you guys. Thank you. Kissies for all of you. Thank you for being here. Please hit the like button on the way out. Hype it up. Don't miss tomorrow. Remember, drop a comment, do all them YouTube things. Help yo girl out. Good night. Prayers and peace and love for happiness. Yes. Thank you, abuelitas. Shout out to my mom. Learn from the ladies. Yes. Okay, guys. I'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you so much for being here. I love you guys and see you tomorrow. Bye.